The blonde punk begs for his life. But mercy, zero. Our giant absolute unit swings and boom, his head bounces away like a sad basketball. The muscle mountain glares at 8 targets, swearing their entire bloodlines will vanish within 1 year. Flashback time, imagine waking up from a coma blinded by vulture reporters. Hey kid, how does it feel knowing your parents burned on live television? Naturally, our hero totally blue screens. A massive panic attack kicks in and the frantic doctors instantly juice him with sleepy meds. Back into the nightmare realm, he goes haunted by the very bullies who put him in this miserable hospital bed. Fast forward, he wakes up again. This time, it is just his weary aunt delivering the absolute worst lore drop. Turns out his parents tried fighting the good fight, but the bullies' families had infinite money hacks. Thanks to premium-tier bribery, the villains literally bought their way out with a fake apology. His folks pushed for real justice, oblivious that they were poking the most untouchable elites in the nation. The tragic finale. They supposedly decided to log out of life together in the middle of a busy highway. Was it despair or a forced game over? Hearing this, our boy spirals straight into the dark abyss of pure depression. His tragic backstory basically went viral across the country. Clenching his fists in bed, he unlocks the revenge route. His parents literally sacrificed everything for him, and somebody had to pay the tab. Time skip. A random lady rolls up looking to rent a cheap apartment. The landlord acts completely normal but drops one incredibly creepy rule. The top floor is an absolute forbidden zone. Like zero entry allowed. She is obviously confused, but the manager doubles down. That rooftop is the ultimate no-go area for regular folks. Cross that line and she is on the streets. She has to stick to her designated spawn zone or he is ripping up the lease. She shrugs it off, though her curiosity about the mystery penthouse is piquing. Whatever cheap rent is cheap rent. She signs the contract. Meanwhile, up in that cursed rooftop room, a literal hermit is rotting away. Surprise, it is our main character, embracing total, edgy isolation. Glued to his monitor, he binge reads 9 whole months of depressing news articles he missed during his coma. Ignorance was bliss, but he aggressively speedruns his own trauma anyway, soaking in all the horrible details that absolutely ruin his mental health. Suddenly, his phone buzzes with a magical rent payment notification. Ding. The cash dropped. Some mysterious secret sponsor is fully funding his tragic hermit lifestyle. Whatever, back to doom-scrolling. Suddenly, someone aggressively knocks. He opens the door and boom, natural light. The sun is a deadly laser. A familiar lady barges in. It is his former hospital caretaker here to make sure he is not turned into a literal mushroom. She lectures him about touching grass before he becomes a vampire. Right now, a simple sunbeam is enough to deal critical damage to his eyes. Looking around, she spots mountains of garbage bags he is too lazy to toss. Dude, even goblins live better than this, she scolds. She peeks at his screen, asks what is up, then speedruns her wellness check because she is in a hurry. Firing off generic therapy questions, she checks his physical stats, which are slowly recovering from zero health. Wait, plot twist. 2 whole years have vanished since the tragic backstory arc. 2 years. Both she and his doctor are completely fed up. This kid seriously needs to equip some healthy daily habits. But our edgy hero practically ignores her, furiously swiping on his screen. She sighs, telling him if school is out, he should at least go outside and pretend to be a functioning member of society. Crickets. Absolute silence. She gives up and leaves. The second the door clicks, he is back in his hacker chair. Phone plugged in, he launches a cyber attack to infiltrate his former bully's super-secret group chat. Oh yeah, we are doing some vigilante tech support, access granted. He starts scrolling their chat logs and wow, these toxic garbage bags are living their best lives like they did not ruin his. While he was in a coma, they were out partying with zero karma hitting back. With every smug text, his rage meter fills to maximum. He hits the bed, teeth grinding, staring blankly while plotting the ultimate vengeance. What is the next move? Boom. Suddenly the sky rips open. Something massive nosedives from the heavens and absolutely wrecks his building. The walls shake. He stares at the door internally, screaming, "What the actual heck was that?" Thinking it is the world's loudest burglar, he creeps forward, but his trauma brain starts flashing warning signs. A crushing pain gripped his chest. Ignoring the agony, our guy forced himself up to face whatever monstrosity caused that ungodly sound. Unlocking the door, blinding daylight hit his face. But as his vision cleared, he realized something absolutely insane had happened. A literal flaming sword had crashed from the heavens, right onto his boring rooftop. It was stabbed into the concrete, blazing with otherworldly fire. Once the flames finally died down, our main character Seyoung cautiously approached. Why on earth was an epic weapon sitting here? Who sent this? A god? A system? Unable to compute the absurdity, his brain just gave up. Stepping closer, he realized it looked exactly like a legendary item from a fantasy role-playing game, though his gamer memory was fuzzy. Squinting at it, he thought it resembled a Zweihander, a massive two-handed blade. From the Renaissance era, checking the ground, it was radiating intense heat, proving this wasn't just some weird cosplay prop. He was completely freaked out. Plus, the rooftop doors were bolted shut from the inside, so no random troll could have planted it here. His mind kept spinning in circles. How did this happen? What kind of crazy glitch in reality is this? After frying his brain for answers, he lets out a pathetic, massive scream that probably woke up the entire apartment complex. Then, he straight up quits. He decides to ignore the epic blade, ignoring whatever god or demon threw it onto his roof. He marches back to bed and flops down. But unfortunately, the universe refuses to let him rest. Out of absolutely nowhere, intense heavy war drumming sounds echo from outside. The crazy sword is blasting its own theme music. He tries to block it out, but it's deafening. Finally, while knocked out, he gets sucked into a crazy hyper-realistic dream. He is standing on a bloody battlefield, surrounded by warriors. In the distance, a badass warrior in a crimson cape is wielding the exact same flaming sword, and rushing toward them an endless army of terrifying monsters. Charges forward, the warrior swings the blade, and an apocalyptic aura erupts, completely vaporizing the beast horde. The sheer overpowered stats of this guy are mind-blowing. While Seyoung stares at the smoke, the scene shifts, revealing a mountain of slaughtered monsters. And right at the very top, that legendary sword is stabbed into the summit. This weapon was a literal god-tier artifact. The epic visual permanently scars his brain. Snapping awake, he finds himself sweating on his bed. Was that really just a dream? It felt way too vivid. Plus, that annoying war drum beat is still thumping from the roof. Questioning his own sanity, he wonders if he is hallucinating. He violently throws the door open, runs outside, and yep, the sword is real. But now it's erupting in a raging inferno. The flames are massive, and he desperately needs to extinguish them before his landlord kills him. He aggressively sprints to the bathroom, fills a heavy bucket, but his noodle arms are so pathetic, he can barely lift the thing. Mustering maximum effort, he waddles over and splashes it onto the blaze. After an embarrassingly long battle against the fire, he finally wins. But his hands are totally roasted, and his muscles are screaming in pain. The sword finally goes back to sleep. Then, he slowly turns his head and spots a perfectly good water hose sitting 2 feet away. All that pathetic, struggling, was completely useless. He could have literally just turned the tap. Feeling like a total idiot, he leaves the holy relic alone. What else can a guy do? He drags himself back to his sad bed. Fast forward to the next morning. He groggily opens the roof door, and of course, the stupid sword is blazing all over again. Day 4 of this fiery nonsense. Using his single brain cell, he just turns the hose and casually sprays it down. This epic fantasy crisis has turned into his annoying morning chore. Wake up, open door, put out the flaming legendary weapon. It is completely normalized. Still, he has zero clue where that phantom war drum soundtrack is broadcasting from. The relentless beats torture him every single night. Why does this thing keep catching fire? What cursed tier is this item anyway? Hitting the pillow again, the demonic noise keeps him wide awake. His sanity snaps. He is officially done with this. The guy just wants to nap. Storming back to the roof, he declares war on the sword. He violently pulls up a lawn chair, staring it down like an enemy boss. He camps out, waiting for the exact millisecond. The magic fire triggers, and the instant a spark appears, bam, he blasts it with the hose. The sword is literally trolling him, but our hero refuses to lose to inanimate metal. He relentlessly sprays it. Retreating to his room, he furiously types into the internet, hunting for an exorcism tutorial. The ultimate strategy: a wooden cross and some holy water. Armed and desperate, he starts chanting for the demonic weapon to vanish. Convinced this is an evil curse, he thrusts the cross forward, aggressively splashing the water, commanding the dark spirits to begone. The result: the sword flames erupt twice as huge. Sweating bullets, he doubles down on his prayers, begging the heavens for a miracle, which does absolutely nothing. His holy barrage continues, utterly failing against the boss-level item. At least the fiery tantrums stop when the sun comes up. But his mental health is totally shattered. He is sleep-deprived, and every single day he is playing firefighter. Well, today he is canceling this fiery subscription. Stomping right up to the cursed blade, he snatches a heavy hammer from his toolbox and goes full caveman on it. But the second steel meets ancient metal, the hammerhead snaps clean off and embeds itself straight into the wall. Not ready to take the loss, our guy sprints back inside and arms himself with a trusty baseball bat. Eyes burning with determination, he swings with the power of a major league hitter. But plot twist, the bat simply bounces back and smacks him right in the face. Critical hit. Now his rage meter is completely maxed out. He is absolutely done. He has not had a single ounce of peace. It is time for the final boss fight. Wrapping his hands around the hilt, he swears that once and for all this oversized butter knife is coming out or he dies trying. But the split second he pulls, the demonic flames erupt, blazing hotter than ever before. He is totally baffled. These spicy visuals are strictly a nighttime event, yet right now, the sun is shining bright. Staring at the blade, a massive fireball charges up at the tip and boom, it blasts him point blank. He feels his very soul being ripped into pieces. A torrential flood of ancient war memories hacks into his brain. The agony is absolute as wave after devastating wave of brutal history crashes over him. He is downloading thousands of lifetimes at once. Yet against all odds, he actually rips the blade from the concrete. He immediately faceplants, hugging his new prize. Meanwhile, down below the neighborhood, aunties are gossiping about the rooftop ruckus, agreeing that the vibes are getting seriously creepy. It is not even just annoying anymore, the unearthly sounds are giving them major horror movie chills. The grumpy landlord had strictly declared the rooftop as a totally off-limits forbidden zone. So now the gossip squad is convinced someone is being held hostage up there, or that a true crime documentary is unfolding. They do not even know who rents that mystery penthouse. One tenant smugly announces she already snitched to the building manager to file a noise complaint. They are even debating dropping a dime to the cops considering the daily screaming matches. But another chimes in saying she already tried that, but the lazy manager brushed it off. As long as the tenant was breathing, there was zero reason to summon the authorities. The ladies roll their eyes at that garbage excuse, totally unconvinced. Still, the manager promised to dial up the mystery owner and investigate. Back in the danger zone, Seyoung groggily reboots his brain. He questions the epic hallucination he just witnessed. It felt like a crazy fever dream, yet way too vivid to fake. He grabs his chest with trembling hands, feeling an emotional hangover of epic proportions, like he just speedran 1,000 tragic lifetimes. When he finally stands, the legendary blade is chilling right next to him. His memory of the unboxing is totally wiped, but when he inspects the crater where it was stuck, his anxiety vanishes. The concrete floor has magically healed itself. That is when he registers its actual size. The thing is a whole meter longer than it looked while buried. We are talking pure anime protagonist proportions. When he tries to lift it, reality hits hard. It weighs a literal ton, and his noodle arms give out instantly. He painfully belly flops with the steel crushing his chest, but after blowing all his stamina, he barely manages to prop it up against the wall. While admiring it, an ancient voice invades his mind, declaring it the ultimate weapon of war. The phantom speaker hypes it up as the bringer of thunder and storms, adding that its current title is not even its true name, just a random alias from some past owner. Seyoung is completely bewildered. How did his brain suddenly install an ancient weapon wiki? Then, majestic system messages spam his consciousness. They command him to stand his ground, demanding he must never bow to anyone and to keep his fighting spirit blazing at all times. Inexplicably, this motivational speech works. Fired up, he grips the hilt with flawless martial arts posture. His brain downloads legendary combat styles, and in his imagination, he is a flawless swordmaster slicing through enemies. Confident, he assumes muscle memory will just take the wheel. But when he tries executing the cool moves in real life, his reality check is simply tripping over getting pinned under the massive blade again and screaming in pure agony. Cut to his messy room. His dedicated caretaker bursts through the door. Of course, our invincible hero had to send a desperate rescue call, because the sword completely wrecked his weak body. She is utterly stunned, though. This shut-in literally never texts. Earlier, she had been enjoying a fancy blind date right in the middle of charming a handsome guy when her ringtone ruined the mood. She politely stepped out to answer. And the second she picked up, Seyoung was begging for his life, so she dropped her dream date with a quick apology and bolted. Now standing over him, she sharply reminds him that she abandoned a perfectly good romance just to play nurse. Then she demands answers. He gives her the silent treatment, but she is having none of it. How exactly did he tear the ligaments in both wrists and somehow dislocate his hip? He shamelessly lies, claiming he was just doing some light exercise. This immediately makes her burst into hysterical laughter. The guy has barely taken 5 steps in over 2 years, so the whole gym bro excuse is pure comedy gold. Right on cue, the room phone starts blaring. Snatching it up, she professionally introduces herself as the home care nurse. And finally, we get her official title. It is the fabulous Kim Bora speaking. She casually explains she handles the regular health checks for Seyoung, our tragically weak main character. Surprise, surprise, the caller is the grumpy landlord throwing his daily tantrum. He grumbles about the horrific screams echoing from the penthouse and interrogates them about his status. Bora smirks, cheerfully lying that her patient is perfectly fine. And mentally he is shockingly stable. She tells our protagonist to make a sound just to prove to the guy on the line that he is actually alive and kicking. Seyoung awkwardly grunts out his name. Bora decides that is good enough, and after hanging up, she demands to know what on earth he is doing. Apparently, half the building just filed noise complaints. Our hero totally avoids eye contact, trying to act cool. Finally, he snaps, confessing his pent-up frustration felt like his body would literally explode. Screaming was his brilliant coping mechanism. Suddenly, his nurse gets hit with a flashback of all the times she patched him up in the hospital. Her heart actually does a little flutter. The Ice Queen melts, and she drops the tough act completely. She promises to swap out his bandages like clockwork. Plus, he can ditch the cast once his joints stop cracking like glow sticks, but warns him not to push his luck. She sighs, admitting she cannot visit every single day, but will try her best to drop by every Tuesday and Thursday. Sadly, next week is a total write-off, and she will be a total ghost. Our edgy hero just scoffs. He does not need a babysitter, nor does he want one anyway. Once she leaves, he flops onto his bed and spots the giant blade beneath it. With a massive groan, he heaves it onto the mattress. His hands are screaming in pure agony. They are practically shattered. Suddenly, that ghostly voice begins haunting his mind again, dropping philosophical bombs about falling down to rise up. Honestly, it seriously creeps him out, considering he is totally alone in this dump. Yet, the epic tone feels weirdly nostalgic. The phantom commands keep looping in his brain, demanding he run with the blade and swing it until he blacks out. His brain is completely fried, trying to decode the mystery. How does blind sword swinging equal overpowered stats? After hitting up the web, he uncovers forum posts from hardcore nerds, flexing their massive gains after 4 months of swinging a massive two-handed greatsword. Seeing the crazy combat arts he needs to master, he accepts his destiny. While he glares at the weapon, the ghost voice spams the same quest swing until you drop. A few hours later, the tsundere nurse returns. Checking his mangled hands, her jaw literally drops at his insane healing speed. An injury like that should take 3 full weeks. Yet this guy is practically fully restored. She demands to know if he chugged a magic potion to cheat the system. Our boy stays silent and she scolds him not to act like a superhero just yet. He absolutely needs bed rest, mostly because she refuses to take the blame if he drops dead. She storms out in a huff, and our hero patiently waits for her footsteps to fade. Popping his knuckles, he realizes his hands are at 100%. Gripping the hilt, the phantom voices start their hype track again, filling his veins with pure, unadulterated hype. He seriously wonders if the legendary ghost is spectating his life right now. The absolute command to swing, as if death was knocking, beats like a drum in his skull. Armed and ready, he marches up to the rooftop to unleash his first epic strike. Total fail. The blade is ridiculously heavy. Just holding it feels like an extreme workout. Clearly, he realizes his 0 stamina stat needs a major buff first. It is time to touch grass, sprint a bit, and grind some base endurance. Forget the angry neighbors, he is on a mission. It has been 2 whole years since his feet even touched a staircase. Wait, his memories show the sword's original master sprinting with this thing at age 12. So to save his pride, the master plan is incredibly simple. Eat, run, and suffer until he levels up. Strapping the heavy iron to his back, he figures a basic squat routine is a good warm-up. Pre-trauma, he could easily rep out 30. Confidently carrying the massive weight, he humbly lowers his grand goal to 10. But the moment his knees bend, the absolute clown fails to do even a single rep and faceplants hard onto the concrete. Yet the ghost mentor has 0 pity, echoing run with the blade. Swing until your soul leaves your body. Defeated, he retreats to devour a massive feast. Sprawled out on his bed, he enjoys the food coma. Waiting for the sun to dip to avoid awkward eye contact with neighbors, he finally prepares for his first brutal dungeon quest, conquering the stairwell. 1 step down, and the horrible reality sets in. This is a survival game. He must push until his hit points hit absolute 0. Yet, just 1 single flight of stairs leaves his physical vessel completely trashed. To maximize the embarrassment, he trips and eats floor again. Gasping for air, he swears to keep grinding no matter the cost, because staying weak is not an option. Dragging his agonizing limbs, he marches up and down the concrete mountain, forcing his body past its breaking point. Crawling back to the roof after 4 agonizing laps, his lungs are burning, and he feels like death is imminent. His stamina bar is completely empty. But suddenly, the dark memory of the 8 bullies who ruined his life flashes before his eyes. A blazing inferno of rage ignites his soul, forcing him up for 1 more round. Weeks of relentless grinding later, the literal mountain of depression trash in his room is finally cleared out, shocking absolutely everyone with his monumental character development. Chilling in bed with a massive sword resting right on his chest, our main character's stomach violently rumbles, so he gets up to cook. Strangely, this magic anime power-up makes him a bottomless pit. Even while stirring the pot, he flexes his arms, prepping for war. Back on the roof, he casually cranks out a full 100 push-ups. For a guy who could not do a single one yesterday, that is insane progress. The ghost in his sword acts like a demonic personal trainer, whispering that less rest between sets means god-tier muscles and iron skin. So, our boy pushes through the pain. absolutely refusing to stop his epic training montage dripping with sweat. He hits those cursed stairs again, completely crushing 8 full round trips. Next up, sword practice. The new starter goal is a breezy 100 swings. The creepy voice in his head coaches his form, telling him to move in agonizing slow motion to build perfect balance and weapon control. Then it gets overly philosophical, asking about his ultimate life goal. Our guy only has one thing on his mind, and that is pure, unadulterated revenge. The horrific bullying replays in his head, fueling his absolute spite. By the time he crashes on his bed, the physical glow-up is already incredibly obvious. He is instantly beefier and way taller. Later, his favorite nurse decides to drop by. After texting him a surprise visit, she knocks. But plot twist, our edgy hero is already waiting right at the door. She freaks out over his ninja senses, but he just ignores her. Checking his vitals, she begins her exam, asking how he feels. He drops his usual emo line. Everything hurts a little. She sighs, saying it is time to drop the act and admit he is totally fine, but he stubbornly repeats his classic catchphrase. And that completely shatters her patience. She scolds him, blurting out that the doctor officially declared him practically healed, meaning it is time to touch grass and be normal. Then she drops the dreaded school word, saying it is time to go back. If he waits any longer, the kids will literally start calling him a boomer. She gently adds that if he does return, maybe try making friends instead of getting beaten up again. The main character steps into her personal space and dramatically declares he is never going back. She stammers nervously, asking if she heard that right, but looking up at his face, she realizes something wild. She blurts out, "Since when are you so tall?" When they met, he was a tiny 1.6 meters, and she used to tower over him at 1.68. She commands him to stand up straight, totally baffled she missed this glow-up. Glancing down at his stomach, she spots rock-solid abs and a crazy height boost. Kids hit puberty fast, but this is straight-up magic. When she pokes his torso, realizing how absolutely ripped he is, her eyes light up like she hit the jackpot. Anyway, back to the grind. The main character continues his ridiculous rooftop training. His new ultimate life goal, swing a heavy sword enough times to unlock its mystical blessing and become unstoppable. He is pushing his body and mind to absolute breaking points. Only then, he believes, will he unlock infinite plot armor. But to get it, he must swing this weapon 10,000 times a day without dying. Our hero knows this insane routine comes from a weird memory fragment that downloaded into his brain after he touched the blade. Still, he blindly trusts the ghost sword, sweating it out daily. He knows he has not even hit 10% of his maximum power, so he just swings harder. Boom, a 1-year time skip happens. The city just elected a shiny new president. On the Jumbotrons, he delivers the most generic, boring political speech ever. His bootlicking aide congratulates him, hyping up his ultimate dream coming true. He is now the president of Korea. Good old Jong is the 21st elected president. But this guy is walking garbage, and terrible news for our hero. Back in his fancy office, an aide scurries in with an urgent phone call. It is the shady Shinjin group sucking up to him for winning the election. To celebrate their corruption, they declare the entire elite family should reunite. Then the new president drops a totally villainous line. He declares it is time for those spoiled brats hiding out in the United States to come back home. Our main character overhears this exact broadcast on his computer. Shocker, the new president is the daddy of the head bully who ruined his life. He instantly knows this political shift means pure chaos for him. Still, a little corruption will not stop his epic revenge tour. Meanwhile, the president's lackey confirms his precious daughter is finally flying back. Her name is Seyoung. The president acts like she suffered a great tragedy abroad, but surely she has matured. He casually brushes off her horrible crimes as a thing of the past, claiming this little exile just gave them time to plot bigger moves. Cue the cliché evil villain laugh. Finally, at Incheon Airport, the holy trinity of absolute trash has touched down. These are the bullies who ruined his life. The arrogant girl is Yeojeon. The smug guy is Soo-ho. And the edgy white-haired dude is Junhook. And honestly, keeping track of these villains is exhausting. Up with. Oh look, 3 more pieces of trash. First up is Ryui. The guy with the questionable blonde dye job is Changgu. Ponytail guy over there is Da-hun. Do not stress about remembering their names, because honestly, neither will I. It is a touching reunion for these absolute scumbags. After ages apart, they pretend to care how everyone has been. Someone finally realizes they cannot count. Where are Soo-hun and Soo-jung? 6 villains out of 8 just feels empty. She points out the missing duo scurried off to Japan. Apparently, one girl needed a mental health break from being awful. After splitting up, those two stuck together like leeches. The white-haired edgelord smirks, bragging it was super easy to track down a certain someone's address. Spoiler alert, they mean our main character. Blondie asks if they are plotting a little surprise party. Obviously, he says. They owe him big time for their fun little stay in juvenile detention. Meanwhile, our main character is dodging a lecture from his aunt. She drops the classic nagging questions. Skipping school again, going to rot in this dark room forever. He hits her with a hard no. She fires back with top-tier guilt, tripping about worrying. He knows the drill. He tosses out a fake "I will think about it" just to escape the call. Auntie immediately backpedals, apologizing for the heavy nagging. She is just super stressed. He plays the sweet nephew routine, assuring her he knows she cares, and that it is totally fine. She drops the classic "call me if you need saving" line. Click. Phone down. Little does she know our guy has basically morphed into a complete monster. His brain is just playing doom music, plotting to crush every single bully. Right across the street, some creep is already on stalker duty. Checking his gadgets, the spy realizes the hermit up on the top floor practically lives like a vampire. They try every stupid trick in the book to poke the bear, just to confirm our main character is actually breathing in there. This amateur spy works for the exact same trash group that ruined his life. Basically, some rich family's glorified errand boy. But all their fancy snooping just confirms one thing. He is definitely brooding up there. Orders received. Cut to Dumb and Dumber in a car whining about their total lack of intel on our guy. The white-haired edgelord is throwing a massive tantrum. Not even a blurry paparazzi picture of his new look. The blonde sighs heavily. The dude never touches grass, making this spy mission a total nightmare. Mr. Whitehair just keeps spitting curses. The shut-in skips school and hugs his couch all day. If he never leaves, they are totally out of options. Their absolute genius master plan, home invasion. Blondie casually suggests they bust the lock and just beat the guy to a pulp. Whitehair completely eats up the idea. Hugging his brother, he praises his wicked sense of entertainment. But hold your horses. He has to run this genius idea by Sue Ryan first. That guy probably has his own twisted scheme ready. Sue Ryan, for those with goldfish memory, is one of the Elite Eight hiding in Japan with the president's spoiled kid. Whitehair smirks knowing he did not just go there for the sushi. He probably fast-tracked his way into the Yakuza. And if that is true, he is swimming in mob perks. The ultimate welcome-back present they could offer, to bag the main character and serve him on a silver platter. Meanwhile, these absolute clowns post their first group selfie on social media. Our boy spots it on his screen. He stares at it with the most terrifying psychotic smile imaginable. In the caption, they are basically begging the missing duo to hurry back for a cute little reunion. Oh, how sweet, because this is the exact perfect trap our main character prayed for. When all 8 gather, he is definitely crashing the party. Deep down, his blood is boiling for that beautiful slaughter. Cut to Narita International Airport. 2 men in suits are telling our VIPs they expected a much longer exile from Korea. But, plot twist, Soo Jung's dad just snagged the presidency, which magically erased all their problems and rolled out the red carpet home. Behold, the final 2 bosses finally show their faces. Stepping into their luxury ride, they start casually chatting. Meet Soo Jung and Sun Hun, the absolute worst of the infamous 8. Both were born with massive diamond spoons in their mouths. They reminisce about their little meet-cute, which apparently happened during some fancy exchange program in the States. They toss a lazy thanks to the goons for babysitting them out in Japan. The goons' response is, peak mob talk. Corrupt friends help corrupt friends. Plus, their families share massive bank accounts, so it is just good business. Oh, and a fun perk of being rich. An army of bodyguards will be practically glued to them back home. Suddenly a phone buzzes. A text from one of the 8 flexing that he is going to hunt the main character right now. 0 patience left. Flash over to a speeding car. 2 clueless grunts are barreling toward the main character's doom fortress. Bickering like a married couple, one insists it is a total cakewalk. Their target is literally just a high school dropout. The bald driver suggests a team effort for the break-in, but the other genius laughs it off, claiming he will solo the kid. These absolute idiots keep squabbling as they march straight into the jaws of death. After some peak villain banter, the black-haired grunt volunteers to drag our boy out. Confidently, he struts into the building. Busting the lock, he marches right up to the rooftop. But wait. Looking around, he realizes this dump feels totally deserted. The place doesn't even have windows. Creepy, right? Just as he reaches the door trying to act tough, he realizes it is already wide open. Inside, just a terrifying abyss of pure darkness. Meanwhile, checking his phone downstairs, his buddy starts getting annoyed. His partner is taking way too long. Did this idiot trip after he went up to our main character's lair? Groaning, he decides to climb the stairs and drag him back himself. When he finally hits the rooftop, he spots the open door. He immediately starts trash-talking his dumb partner. Leaving the door wide open is just begging for nosy neighbors. Grumbling, he approaches our hero's room and takes a tiny peek inside. But instantly, yoink. He gets yanked straight into the shadow realm. Fast forward a bit. Outside, some nearby workers start scratching their heads over a randomly abandoned car. Yep, the exact same ride our two missing goons drove. Since nobody is coming back to claim it, it is tow truck time. One worker points out that this specific parking spot is actually under strict surveillance. The second guy sweats a little, wondering if something shady went down. His buddy explains they are strictly required to patrol this zone. So with a mystery vehicle parked out front, they better stay sharp and report it instantly. Meanwhile, back at the rich kid's hideout, they are whining that it is already 11 o'clock with zero updates from the hitmen they ordered to raid the apartment. Blondie keeps spamming their phones but gets pure silence in return. The white-haired brat throws a total tantrum, demanding a fix. Panicking, Blondie resorts to dialing his scary uncle, the actual mob boss who hired the goons. He nervously asks for an update, but the uncle barks that he has not heard a single peep either. His two lackeys pulled a vanishing act. The uncle rages, wondering why these idiots have not finished the simple job. Blondie arrogantly suggests the uncle hired totally useless amateurs. Big mistake. Hearing that disrespect, the uncle absolutely explodes. This little brat clearly forgot who runs the underworld. His men are elite killers, and the only useless amateur around here is his nephew. But Blondie keeps digging his grave, boasting that he and his white-haired buddy should have just handled the trash themselves. That triggers the boss to nuclear levels, especially since he was doing these kids a massive favor. He just starts screaming curses through the speaker. Meanwhile, inside our hero's cozy apartment, two cell phones keep buzzing. Next to them, the beautifully mangled bodies of our missing hitmen. In the shadows stands the main character. He literally turned these elites into a human carpet. Anyway, switching gears to Incheon Airport. Two faces just landed. Seyoung and some other dude whose name is totally irrelevant. Walking ahead, they are intercepted by a lady named Nam Ho-jung. She flashes a Secret Service badge, and right on cue, a suspicious guy, calling himself Professor Yang, spawns in. Professor Yang drops a classic long time no see. Then he drops the bomb. Soo-hoon's terrifying dad wants to see his son immediately. He is under strict orders to drag him back, so the girl waves goodbye to a relevant guy, and they split up. Back in the gritty underbelly of the city, the angry uncle is having a very loud chat. Still fuming, he demands to know where his expensive hitmen went. He orders their guild leader to find them now, or he will personally end his career. The guild boss starts sweating but gets angry too. What the heck were his subordinates doing? They had one job. As the big boss of this shady organization, he cannot look weak. So he furiously dials every contact aggressively, asking if anyone had seen Dumb and Dumber. But nobody knows a thing. Now the boss is seriously sweating. What in the world is happening? Deciding to play detective, he drives straight to the target location. Pulling up, he glares at his driver, doubting this is the right address. But as he marches into the parking lot, he spots a bright red impound sticker. Checking the license plate, he sighs. Yep, that is definitely the company car. Doing some quick villain math with the timeline, he realizes his men actually arrived, but then just magically vanished into thin air, and their getaway ride got towed. Cut back to Blondie's unhinged uncle. Stomping right into the assassin headquarters, he demands to see the manager. But when he bursts in, he finds just one incredibly terrified intern. Grabbing him, the uncle barks, "Where did everyone go?" The trembling guy stutters that the boss took the whole squad to Takashong's apartment, which, spoiler alert, is our overpowered hero's lair. Suddenly, the boss answers his phone. While the uncle screams into the receiver, the boss interrupts. They have a massive problem. The first two guys evaporated, and the vibes inside this apartment are absolutely cursed. Seriously bad news. The uncle scoffs, asking if this coward actually called in an entire army just to be safe. The boss confirms he is storming the place, backed by a horde of his toughest thugs. Rolling deep with his mob, they finally breach the building. As they aggressively march up the stairs, the boss prepares them for the worst. To drag our boy out by his collar. They reach the rooftop, cracking their knuckles. But while the boss is still climbing the stairs, a symphony of agony echoes out. At first he smirks. Mission accomplished, right? But with all that screaming, maybe his goons went a little too far. But when he finally steps onto the roof, he finds his lackey absolutely wrecked. The poor guy looks like he saw a ghost. Pure, unadulterated terror. As the boss inches toward the door, he spots an absolute unit of a beast. Yep, that is our main character, looking thicker than a brick wall. The second they lock eyes, the mob boss hits the deck. His legs turn to absolute jelly. Only one thought loops in his brain. Who the heck is this raid boss? Our hero does not even blink. Boom, lights out. A few days later, a terrified female tenant is complaining to the landlord. Those screams were no joke. She has been shivering under her blankets, running on zero sleep for days. The cops arrive to patrol the perimeter. They already checked the security footage. A whole mob went in, so something went down. As the officers carefully creep up the steps, they spot the smashed door. The lock is literally in pieces, sweating bullets. They know they have to investigate. Reaching the doorway, they give a polite little knock. Suddenly, our main character blocks the frame. The guy is so huge, his head clips out of view. Total boss energy. The cops are absolutely speechless, but what is behind him is way worse. A literal mountain of unconscious thugs. Everyone who tried to raid his room got folded like lawn chairs. Sirens start wailing as ambulances swarm the block. Rolling up in his car, the blonde guy's uncle squints at the chaos. Checking out the stretchers, he watches a whole squad of broken bodies getting hauled away. Up on the roof, the cops are sweating through their interrogations. Our hero casually explains he does not even have an official identification yet. Why? Because he is not even 18. He drops his name, Taka Yongi. He used to go to Nungwang High, but dropped out as a sophomore. And yeah, the rumors were true. The detectives freeze. Is this that legendary kid? They frantically radio headquarters. The captain yells through the comms to abandon ship immediately. Sure, the kid is nearly 2 meters tall, but he is still legally a minor. They cannot just slap cuffs on him, especially with his crazy track record. The media would chew them up and spit them out. Arresting this walking natural disaster, way too much paperwork, this requires a seriously tactical retreat. Their master plan docs pretend they saw nothing and run. They decide to handle the headache later. The officers practically sprint away. Back in his suddenly spacious room, our boy dials his aunt like nothing happened. He casually mentions he is packing his bags for the United States. His aunt lights up, absolutely thrilled by the news. She immediately offers to pull some strings with his uncle. But our main character pumps the brakes. Not right now. First, he wants to backpack for a whole year. Goal number 1, touring all of Korea. Being a minor means solo international flights are a no-go anyway. So, a domestic road trip it is. His aunt sighs, warning him that a gap year will just tank his academic record. It is not like he is hitting the books on the road, but the big guy just wants to touch some grass. Literally. He wants the breeze in his hair and zero stress. He figures some fresh air will cure his battle fatigue. He tells her to chill, and not to freak out if he goes off the grid for a bit. Being the best aunt ever, she promises his room will always be waiting. He has total freedom. Just a quick text now and then, to prove he is breathing. Our hero promises to keep in touch, and hangs up. Meanwhile, across the city, the white-haired villain and Blondie are losing their minds. 48 hours since they ordered the hit, and their elite squad of goons, total radio silence. The white-haired snake dials Blondie, barking for a status update. After all, Blondie hired those third-rate thugs. Blondie stammers that they are ghosting his calls. Whitehair absolutely erupts, roaring about how painfully useless his partner is. A simple fetch quest ruined. Blondie bites back, yelling at him to lose his number. He slams the phone down, practically steaming, when it suddenly rings again. It is Soo-hun. The big boss wants a meeting. Blondie asks for the location. But there is a catch. He has to fetch a little parting gift first. Cut to the rendezvous. What was the mystery item Soo-hyun demanded? The blueprints to the rooftop and the absolute unit's exact coordinates. Seyoung squints at the intel. A rooftop shack. Seriously. He grumbles about the terrible photo quality. But whatever. It is time to burn their paper trails. When this master plan drops, they will be total ghosts. He slides the files over to Soo-hyun. Next stop, calling in the elite special forces. Because clearly, they swear they won't repeat their past careless mistakes against our main character. This time, they are bringing absolute tactical perfection. The boss's face is literally twitching with the sheer unadulterated rage of spending 2 whole years locked up in juvenile detention. The blonde lackey is shaking in his boots. As the big boss Soo-hyun rules his little gang with absolute terror, he glares at Blondie, demanding to know if the white-haired punk sent that cocky message about playing with our hero. Blondie aggressively sweats frantically, denying any knowledge. He has no clue what that suicidal idiot meant, and he wants out. Soo-hyun narrows his eyes. Are you absolutely sure Blondie swears on his life? Suddenly, a grunt excitedly reports the main character's location is locked down. The elite strike team will drag him back in 1 hour. A creepy, villainous smirk spreads across his face. It is finally payback time for those 2 miserable years in juvie. The grand revenge master plan is officially in motion. The gang rallies to ambush the apartment. Meanwhile, 2 extra muscleheads are dispatched. Looks like our overpowered hero is getting some fresh punching bags today. Arriving at the rooftop, one thug confidently reminds his buddy that the target is only 18. Still, they plan to go all out, but standing before the door, the vibe is entirely wrong. His partner suddenly freezes, trembling as if facing a legendary monster. He stammers that a literal wild beast is inside. The bald thug scoffs, asking if a rabid dog is making him cry. The partner whispers back in absolute horror, no, not a dog. A genuine bloodthirsty apex predator, Baldy laughs it off, claiming jungle monsters do not live in city apartments. He thinks his buddy has completely lost his mind, They arrogantly proceed with the ambush. But right before Baldy can even touch the doorknob, boom, the steel door violently explodes off its hinges from a single punch. The terrified partner desperately throws a counterattack and actually lands a hit. Plot twist, it does 0 damage. Our main character casually replies with a devastating sledgehammer fist, instantly burying the poor guy into the concrete. Baldy is somehow still breathing for now. Back with Seyoung's clueless gang, Seyoung asks his bodyguard why he skipped the raid. The pro smugly replies that sending more men is just overkill. Both thugs are seasoned veterans fighting an 18-year-old kid. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. He frowns at the caller ID, seeing it as the bald guy. But the second he accepts the call, a blood-curdling scream shatters his eardrum. He instantly recognizes that pathetic wail. It is Kenta, the giant bruiser, crying like a baby. Through the chaotic audio, our hero demands their location, but the line starts dropping. Realizing this weeping giant is totally useless right now, the absolute unit of a main character grabs Baldy to act as his personal navigation system. The trembling thug stammers that the hideout is 10 minutes away. Our hero smirks. I will do it in 5. He marches toward their getaway car, but facing a hilarious problem, he literally rips the entire roof off with his bare hands. He is way too massive to fit. With Kenta sobbing in the back, the convertible by force speeds towards Song. At the hideout, the bodyguard starts hyperventilating. The gang frantically asks what is wrong, as he screams at everyone to evacuate immediately. The flawless mission was a total catastrophe. If they value their lives, they must scatter. Seyoung is flabbergasted. How did elite pros lose to a teenage loser? The bodyguard frantically snaps back. There is 0 time for a PowerPoint presentation. Run for your lives. He sounds like a broken record of pure panic, begging them to flee. Song arrogantly questions if an enemy is approaching, annoyed by the cowardice. But before his ego gets stroked, the lobby doors shatter, and another terrifying scream echoes upstairs. Down on the street, our glorious protagonist has arrived, wielding a massive sword. Pedestrians whip out their phones, snapping photos of this majestic giant. He casually asks his bald hostage for the room number. The 8th floor. The crowd is mesmerized by his colossal aura, assuming this must be a ridiculously high-budget action movie set. But a nosy lady peeks into the ruined car and spots Kenta. One look at his mangled face sends her screaming into the stratosphere. No cameras here, this is real life. Back up in the penthouse, the cocky thugs are officially sweating bullets. They are totally clueless about the symphony of screams echoing from the streets. One quick-thinking rat points out the 3 stairwells, suggesting the classic scatter-and-pray maneuver. Song whines about not having an escape route. But hovering in one spot means guaranteed death against whoever is climbing up. Splitting up is their only pathetic chance. Blondie clings to the bodyguard like a koala, begging for elite protection. But Seyoung selfishly declares that some sacrificial lamb needs to distract the enemy and call the cops. The girl instantly latches onto Seyoung's arm for dear life. He barks at Suho to take the rear exit, leaving Blondie with the remaining stairwell. The elite mercenary obviously chooses to shadow the VIP clients because money talks louder than gang loyalty. So the hilariously unfortunate Blondie is totally abandoned, while the cowards flee down their chosen paths. But as they scurry like rats, our unstoppable hero is charging up the steps. The ultimate lottery of doom begins. Who gets obliterated first? As Blondie creeps down the stairs, terrified. Meanwhile, Suho's crew scampers down to a door, finding the cops waiting on the other side. They are absolutely thrilled to see them. They actually think they survived this mess. But our blonde bully, not so lucky. Bam. He gets knocked out cold before he can even blink. Waking up, his brain is completely rebooting. Then he spots the main character looming right over him. He is totally clueless about who this giant is. Oh, and that bald hired thug, the one who leaked their info, already sleeping with the fishes. It is a seriously gruesome VIP package. Blondie absolutely loses his mind. He stammers that they can start whatever sick game this is. Who are you, he squeaks. Our hero just facepalms internally. After ruining his entire life, this trash bag seriously has amnesia. Because the hero never forgot. Every agonizing memory of this jerk is burned into his brain. Outside, the cops are swarming the place like angry bees. The situation has officially gone viral. Peeking from a window, the oblivious blonde kid is now the star of a hostage show. A total captive. Down below, a confused officer grabs a megaphone. Who are you and why? The hero casually calls Blondie his real name, Chang-gu. The bully freezes like a deer in headlights. How does this absolute unit know his name? Staring straight into his terrified soul, the grand reveal drops. I am Tae Se-jung, the exact same kid Chang-gu bullied into the dirt. Pure horror paints the bully's face. His brain finally connects the dots, and all his past sins flash before his eyes. Oops. Downstairs, the cops catch the name and frantically type it into their database. Meanwhile, our cowardly bully is glitching out. How did that scrawny loser turn into this terrifying boss monster? Our main character smirks and drops a massive lore bomb. 3 years ago, in a massive fiery blaze, 2 people sacrificed their lives. Yep, those heroes were his parents. The cops instantly recognized the famous tragedy. Jaws hit the pavement in absolute shock. Wait, the crazy hostage taker is that poor orphaned kid who spent 9 months in a coma, the one the media milked for sad ratings. What a plot twist. Dramatically drawing his massive sword, he slams it into the floor. He lifts Blondie up by the throat like a rag doll. The kid shrieks in pure panic, realizing he is chained up. "Mommy, Daddy," he wails, which is honestly the worst thing he could say, because it just pours gasoline on the hero's blazing rage. "You took my family away, you spoiled brat." He growls that his parents paid the ultimate price for the media circus. But guess what? The universe's karma bill is finally due, and starting right now, he is going to collect their lives as payment for his trauma. While he is dropping these villain-level monologue bars, the whole thing is streaming live on national television. Breaking news: hostage situation near the station, the anchors scream. SWAT teams and local cops are swarming like heavily armed ants. The public is eating popcorn, wondering, is that the orphan? Sure, 3 years have passed, so he should technically be a high schooler, but look at those shoulders, that is not a minor. He looks like a leveled-up warlord. Absolute chaos erupts outside with flashing sirens and cops running around like headless chickens. The chief demands the boy's entire backstory file right now. Time to dig up the traumatic past. The detectives also confirm that our whining blonde captive is the son of the Aegis Security CEO. The police chief suddenly needs an aspirin. Aegis is literally Korea's #1 security giant. And worse, this rich kid was actually a major suspect in the tragedy from 3 years ago. The chief sweats bullets. If the rich kid caused the fire and this sword-wielding giant is truly the vengeful orphan, then Blondie is 10 seconds away from becoming mincemeat. The negotiator grabs the mic, desperately asking for his ransom demands. But our hero laughs. "Negotiate, I think you misunderstood." The poor officer keeps begging for a peaceful chat while news choppers buzz loudly overhead. The protagonist stares right into the camera. "I said, no deals, he just wants to make a nice, friendly public service announcement," and begins naming his targets. The 8 horrible people who ruined his life. He lists them off like a deadly grocery list, including the sniveling Kim Jong-soo right beside him. He promises to personally escort them to the afterlife. Oh, and their parents too. Actually, scratch that, their entire family trees. Brothers, sisters, even the family goldfish. Everyone is catching these hands. And just like that, the absolute madman broadcasts his extermination plan to the whole world. "Bring the cops, bring the military," he taunts. "Nothing on earth will stop me from delivering this divine beatdown. The karma train has no brakes, and nobody is standing in his way." Then Blondie makes the single dumbest move in history. "My daddy is rich and powerful. You better let me go, seriously." Threatening the unhinged guy with a sword. The protagonist tightens his grip on the hilt, radiating so much furious aura he practically asks, "Do I look like that scared little punching bag from school? Did this idiot hit his head?" There is absolutely zero fear in his eyes. Only pure, unadulterated popcorn-worthy rage. Staring straight down the camera lens, he tells the audience to grab their snacks. "Watch me." Because this is a live-streamed one-man declaration of war. Swish. The kid's head practically takes flight. The crowd freezes, jaws dropping to the pavement. A totally unhinged plot twist just hijacked the afternoon. Seyoung just became Korea's shortest-lived legend. Meanwhile, across town, Changu's wealthy dad is live-streaming this disaster on his tablet. His blood pressure spikes to infinity as he mutters over and over, "Did he really just slice my boy?" The dude looks like he swallowed a lemon. Enter the big boss chairman, who also happens to be Sun Jung's dad. Even this top boss is completely sweating bullets. He snatches his phone and hits the panic button straight to the police commissioner. Commissioner Lee Bok picks up, and the chairman barks the ultimate green light. Take this crazy main character out. Back at ground zero, the poor officer in charge is still rebooting his brain. Suddenly his phone buzzes with the golden notification. The kill order has just been officially stamped and approved. Time to go loud. A sniper is already locked in with a whole squad backing him up. Once the trap is set, our overpowered hero just stares them down like they are low-level mobs. Bang. A sniper finally pulls the trigger, totally convinced he just scored a sick headshot. He instantly radios in that the target is officially deleted. But hold up, looking closer, the bullet just kissed cold steel. Our guy literally parried a sniper round. Down below, the officer gets the memo. Stop messing around. He screams the order and an absolute hurricane of lead unleashes. But oops, the target has left the chat. With one godly leap, he launches into the sky. As the cops track his flight path, he goes full action star down a pole, surfs across parked cars, and sticks the superhero landing perfectly. Spotting a cop cruiser, he casually chucks it like a baseball. Boom, massive explosion. The poor officer is barely processing the fireworks show, but peering into the fiery chaos, our hero walks out of the flames like a complete boss. And he definitely didn't come to negotiate. The officer is seriously questioning reality right now. Is this guy even human? He orders his trembling squad to brace themselves and opens fire again. But before a single spark flies, the protagonist just teleports out of existence. Using cheat code speed, he casually pops up right behind the shooters and instantly knocks them out of the game. The frantic officer screams at his men to throw the entire kitchen sink at him. A lucky sniper gets a clean line of sight and shoots. But right before the bullet ruins his handsome face, the sword flashes again. Ping deflected. The desperate officer is practically crying now, begging them to use literally any weapon available. The whole squad unloads their magazines. But this guy is playing on God mode, deflecting every single bullet. With one massive sword swing, he unleashes a shockwave that completely bulldozes the area, sweeping the cops away like dust. The live reporters are having a collective existential crisis on air. After casually wiping the floor with them, our hero lets out an absolutely terrifying battle roar. Meanwhile, safely tucked in a hospital bed, Soo Ryun and Soo Jang are sweating buckets. The girl is having a total meltdown while the guy is shaking like a leaf. The hero's final threat is looping in his brain. Back at the war zone, our invincible main character casually walks away. The battleground is nothing but a blazing bonfire now, and emergency crews scramble to fix the mess. While medics patch up the bruised egos, the furious officer corners a snitch named Gu Yong. Turns out our scary protagonist had politely interrogated this weakling about where his targets ran off to. Those highly important targets being Soo Ryun and Soo Jang, who fled to the clinic. And guess what? This coward sang like a canary. Hey, nobody wants to be chopped in half. Hearing this tragic leak, the officer practically blows a gasket. This idiot just painted a giant target on the hospital. Smack, he feeds the snitch a nasty right hook. This mission is a total dumpster fire, and the Grim Reaper himself is already jogging toward Zingen Hospital. Yep, the exact same cozy spot where the cowardly duo is hiding out. The officer frantically dials his team, screaming that a one-man apocalypse is marching right for the front doors. All special forces better get there yesterday. Meanwhile, inside that very doom-cursed hospital, Soo Ryun and Soo Jung are still hugging their knees in terror. Surprise, the final boss has already arrived outside. On the television, a reporter dramatically confirms the rogue superhuman has officially vanished, making sure everyone knows Shang-Su got fatally disconnected from his head, and that his current location is a complete mystery. Hearing the broadcast, Soo Ryun loses her absolute mind in sheer panic. Right on cue, the shady Secret Service lady from earlier kicks open the door. She drags in her beefy security squad, clearly here to play savior. They practically have to carry the trembling girl like a sack of potatoes since her legs have officially quit working and rush for the emergency exit. But guess who decided to greet them at the lobby? The main character. Taking a slow, terrifying step forward, he casually strolls into the building. Miles away, the desperate officer is still trying to speed dial his tactical teams to the rescue. The intel finally hits the Secret Service radios, warning them the Demon King has arrived. But right before they even, the protagonist shatters the glass right behind them like a horror movie villain. Through the dramatic smoke, our guy steps out from the debris. Finally, he is face to face with his prey, Soo Ryun. But before things can get romantic, Soo Ryun gets rudely yanked away by the female-led wannabe screaming about the elevator. The main character tilts his head, wondering where this coward thinks he is going after putting his family through absolute hell. Cue the epic anime roar as he blasts Soo Ryun's name into the stratosphere. The girl orders her cannon fodder to attack desperately, hoping to buy time. Spoiler alert, the mob characters get absolutely folded. The boss walks through them like a hot knife through butter. Meanwhile, the panic-stricken squad reaches the elevator, mashing the close button like gamers on high ping. Right before the doors shut, a battered goon crawls up, begging for a rescue. Yoink, he gets dragged into the abyss in a split second. Through the closing gap, they catch a glimpse of our terrifying hero. They are literally shaking, wondering if this absolute unit is actually human. Suddenly, Soo Ryun realizes the elevator is going down. Big brain moment. They were supposed to head up to the roof for their helicopter ride, then a massive dread-inducing weight lands right on top of their metal box. Looking up, they realize the sword-wielding maniac is surfing the elevator. Someone screams to duck for cover, just as a giant blade pierces the ceiling. With just one hand, our guy starts treating the roof like a cheese grater. The girl yells that the second the doors open, they need to sprint like their lives depend on it. Stab, stab, stab. He keeps aggressively poking holes through the metal, playing a deadly game of whack-a-mole. Miraculously, no one gets skewered. But when they finally bolt out the doors, the dude who carried the girl gets the short end of the stick. She watches helplessly as he gracefully tosses her out of the danger zone just before the roof absolutely caves in. The protagonist drops in like a tactical nuke, filling the cramped space with a massive cloud of dust. As the coughing survivors stumble up, the absolute menace stands before them, dripping with a terrifying aura. He casually asks where they think they are sneaking off to. His face screams pure, unfiltered vengeance for his loved ones, and he has waited ages for this payback. But plot twist, a random car comes Tokyo drifting straight into him. Even a max-level boss gets caught off guard sometimes. Bam! He takes the hit right on the chin, looking more annoyed than injured as he goes flying. The reckless driver, none other than the previously seen Professor Young, he screams for the VIPs to get in the getaway ride. But our overpowered hero is totally fine, having casually used his giant sword as a bumper. The panicked group scrambles into the vehicle, while the professor bravely or foolishly plays the sacrifice card. His buddy begs him to jump in, but the old man tells them to hit the gas. The tires screech as the cowards speed away. Left behind, the professor puffs up his chest to stall our hero, who completely ignores him and casually strolls toward the fleeing car. The professor unloads his gun, but bullets might as well be marshmallows. Sweating buckets, he vows to stop this unnatural beast, acting like the ultimate gatekeeper. Reality check, he is swatted away like a bothersome mosquito in 0.5 seconds. Meanwhile, the escapees are tearing down the highway with a whole squad of escort cars. They keep checking their rearview mirrors, praying the psycho is gone. Suddenly, a panicked voice on the phone drops the bad news. The monster is literally seconds away. They need to gun it to the bridge where their escape chopper is waiting. The girl screams at the driver to step on it. But horsepower is a joke against main character energy. The dude is already riding their bumper. With one gravity-defying leap, he gracefully lands on an escort car, letting them know playtime is over. Desperate with the rendezvous point in sight, the girl screams to use literally any weapon to shake him off. Out comes the heavy artillery. A goon grabs a grenade launcher and starts blasting away, grinning like an idiot. After all, nobody survives a grenade to the face, right? He foolishly celebrates early. Surprise. The unkillable demon leaps right onto their hood. The passengers let out a synchronized shriek of pure terror as he casually peels the car's roof back like a can of sardines with his bare hands. Well, guess they are dying today. He raises his massive blade for the finishing blow. But plot armor kicks in, and the car brutally crashes into the bridge, messing up his swing. Unfortunately for him, an entire firing squad with rocket launchers has suddenly joined the chat behind him. Multiple rockets are sent flying straight at his face, and for once, the overpowered boss actually looks mildly inconvenienced. A massive explosion rocks the bridge. But before the grunts can reload, our guy bursts through the smoke cloud like Batman clinging to the top of the bridge, staring down at the poor doomed cops below. The cops went trigger-happy, but our boy gracefully danced through the bullet rain, deflecting lead like ping-pong balls. A second later, the main character landed without a scratch. He dropped a totally fair warning. If they liked breathing, the absolute smartest play was to run away. But if they played hero, he would personally hand them game-over screens. Unsurprisingly, the clowns ignored him and kept shooting. Meanwhile, the VIP escape chopper for Suyo and Seyoung finally touched down. The two cowards sprinted toward their flying taxi. Our guy just stood there, locking his sword onto the chopper like a heat-seeking missile. He had zero plans of letting his prey fly away. One swing and that bird would become fireworks. But wait, dying instantly. That was way too VIP of an exit. A quick death lacked the proper spicy flavor of revenge. It was much funnier to let them marinate in pure, unadulterated terror, letting them rot in paranoia until their inevitable rematch. Cut to the presidential palace, where the nation's biggest shots were having a total meltdown. Eyes glued to a massive flat screen, they watched the one-man apocalypse tearing through their city. The intel dropped. Suspect identified as Seyoung, a seemingly normal 18-year-old kid. Last spotted casually wrecking Yongdong Bridge. They dug up his tragic backstory. 3 years prior, he was the prime victim of that massive high school bullying scandal that broke the internet. His parents had become absolute martyrs, giving up their lives in a desperate protest right at Gwangwamun. The suits nervously sweated, wondering where the Grim Reaper was heading next. The top brass admitted they were completely clueless, but they were trying their best. Surprisingly, the president himself pulled a vanishing act during this national crisis, which made zero sense. Apparently, the big boss was out seeking a secret alternative cheat code. Meanwhile, over at the ultra-luxurious Blue Wing studio, a bunch of rich parents were practically dropping their caviar. They had just watched our hero read out their exact names on live TV, cheerfully promising to permanently delete their entire bloodlines, pets included. The absolutely hilarious part of this threat. The targets were all chilling right there in that very room. We are talking top-tier chibols like Soo-hyun's dad, the almighty Shinshin Group chairman. His genius, billionaire strategy. Just hit the internet's delete button, censor the video, hide the search results. The boomer chairman honestly believed he could just sweep a literal god of war under the rug. Sitting nearby was Blue Wing's president, who happened to be Young-suk's white-haired mother. She logically pointed out that silencing the entire internet was pure delusion. Also panicking at the table, the green-haired girl's dad, who literally owned Goldfield, the nation's biggest web portal. Soo-hyun's dad kept barking that they needed to somehow magically neutralize this teenage raid boss. Throwing more money at it, Namji's dad chimed in too. Basically, the sperm donors of all 8 trash-tier bullies were gathered for the ultimate bad parent convention. They were the untouchable elites now sweating bullets. One of them stated the obvious, noting the kid literally ate gunfire for breakfast and asked how exactly they were supposed to stop a human tank. Another guy brought out the ultimate copium, loudly arguing that if the boy was actually invincible, he would not bother dodging. Therefore, it was obviously just pathetic aim from the police. His brilliant logic: just hire elite mercenaries, bring the military, throw enough rockets at the teenager and he would definitely go down. Crickets chirped. The room went dead silent. Deep down, these billionaires knew their expensive hired guns would probably just become fertilizer. What they just witnessed was an absolute monster. The chairman puffed out his chest, bragging he could buy any assassin. But the white-haired mom shattered his ego with one simple question: who do you think the monster will hunt first? Meanwhile, at the public cemetery, our main character casually strolled in, while the graveyard shift workers absolutely lost their minds. The most wanted man in the country was here. The clueless NPCs frantically dialed the cops. Our hero ignored the background noise completely. He walked straight up to a very specific gravestone, his parents' resting place. His terrifying aura vanished. He softly apologized for not visiting sooner, sounding like just a kid who was running a little late. The untouchable god of death finally broke. Tears streamed down his face as Seyoung called out to his mom and dad. He missed them like crazy. Gently touching the cold stone, he promised to handle the trash. He told them to kick back, relax, and just enjoy the upcoming slaughter. By now, the police had brought the entire precinct to surround the graveyard. But staying entirely in his own emotional zone, he vowed that zero forgiveness would be handed out. Every single one of his enemies was getting a one-way ticket to hell. He was going to force-feed them the exact same soul-crushing despair he had lived through. Since the whole damn country had turned a blind eye when his parents cried for justice, he was going to return the favor by going completely deaf to their pleas. Cue the dramatic entrance. The military megaphones ordered him to drop his weapon. Instead, he smiled. This rotten nation was finally going to learn what it felt like to scream into the void without a savior. Every single sinner was getting their karma delivered. By then, military choppers buzzed overhead like annoying mosquitoes. The desperate command to open fire echoed out, but despite the absolute rain of bullets, the oblivious officer kept shouting through the megaphone for the suspect to surrender. Talk about awful timing. Because right before the guy could finish his pathetic warning, our hero casually swung his blade, swatting a literal helicopter out of the sky into a massive fireball. Sword versus gunfight. Sword wins, trashing his parents' resting place. Talk about signing your own death warrant. Seriously, what were these guys smoking? As the chopper literally rained from the sky, the commander's jaw dropped. But boom, a massive explosion instantly stole the spotlight. It was a freaking tank, and an entire armored squad was rolling in. Yet as the dust settled, our main character stood perfectly fine, sporting some seriously shredded fashion. Launching himself like a human missile, he sprinted toward the blazing chopper wreck and snatched his beloved blade. Dropping into a deadly runner's stance, he actually bit down on the hilt. The boss screamed to open fire, and at that exact millisecond, our guy dashed forward, slicing through grunts like hot butter. The commander's brain practically short-circuited. What just happened? The main character had literally scrubbed the map clean. Suddenly, a random phone started buzzing, and upper management ordered them to catch him alive. Yeah, right. Apparently, he was Korea's shiny new national treasure. The officer just stared, wondering how you handcuff a literal god when bullets could not even scratch him. Meanwhile, deep in the sketchy side of town, a bunch of shady villains were plotting. They bragged about packing some ridiculously heavy firepower. They claimed if they pulled the trigger, every bystander would have lifelong nightmares. Turns out these were elite mercenaries working for the Blue Wing Syndicate. Their boss insisted this crazy arsenal was completely justified. After all, this grieving father had just watched his beloved son get brutally deleted. Anyone would snap after a show like that. So they decided to unleash absolute hell and turn the metropolis into a giant bonfire. Once the smoke cleared, their paychecks would be 20 times fatter than your average grunt's salary. The boss claimed his fatherly rage was basically the green light for a full-scale urban war. Right then, global bigwigs were sweating in a fancy boardroom, desperately brainstorming how to leash our monster. But honestly, it looked completely delusional to expect him breathing in handcuffs. After watching his highlight reel of destruction, including surviving point-blank tank shells, they realized he had vanished. Even the nation's most elite squad was crying for their mommies and serious backup. Still, one stubborn suit declared the hunt was merely taking a commercial break. They also discovered that a certain guild was already hunting our guy down. Yep, the exact same losers hired from Chapter 1. And these clowns were totally to blame for poking the bear. Now the government demanded a full presentation on why they ever provoked the absolute beast to begin with. Meanwhile, chilling at the graveyard, our hero stared into the void, hallucinating a super wholesome family portrait with a happy kid. All in his head, obviously. The nostalgia hit like a freight train, brutally reminding him of his tragic backstory. Cut to the white-haired villain's mansion, where he was throwing a massive tantrum over Shang-Su, calling him utterly useless at the one job of dying properly. Sweating buckets, he knew his neck was next on the chopping block, until his ringtone blared. Surprise, surprise. It was the green-haired girl, aggressively nagging about his slow response time. He smoothly lied, claiming he only answered to hear her voice. Meanwhile, the world outside was burning down. She dramatically confessed she dialed his number purely out of deep concern for his miserable life. And, plot twist, she totally knew he sent Shang-Su on that suicide mission against our overpowered star. He panicked, demanding her source. Smirking, she revealed the blonde pretty boy spilled all the tea. That simp never kept secrets. This just made Whitey pop a massive blood vessel in absolute rage. He endlessly cursed the blonde idiot's name. Doom spiraling, he told her to broadcast it to the whole world for all he cared. The Grim Reaper was practically knocking anyway. She told him to quit the sad boy act because she hatched a brilliant scheme. She found the ultimate cheat code to pause the slaughter. Confused, he demanded to know what crazy nonsense she was spewing. A pause button for a monster. She playfully asked if his goldfish brain forgot the fateful day they ruined him. Back then, our untouchable hero was desperately shielding someone else. Suddenly, the light bulb clicked in the villain's empty head, and the evil duo practically snorted at the hilarious irony. They giggled, remembering how the so-called invincible warrior, face-planted in the dirt, repeatedly begged to absorb the beatdown for his damsel in distress. Looking back, that whole tragic origin story was just the result of our protagonist playing the noble knight for a random chick. Boom. The ultimate hack was simply kidnapping her. But enough supervillain brainstorming. Anyway, skipping forward, after totally remodeling the graveyard, our lone wolf retreated into the spooky woods for some moody introvert time. Sadly, an elite death squad had already glued themselves to his GPS coordinates. These poor misguided grunts were literally the same cannon fodder financed by Blonde Boy's sugar daddy. The smug commander chilled in his luxury vehicle, grinning like a complete idiot, eagerly promising to show our arty hero the true terrifying power of Aegis security. He confidently barked at his pawns to march forth and unleash absolute bullet hell. Following an epic, earth-shattering boom, the squad threw an early victory party, deeply convinced they just deleted the final boss. Psych. He materialized directly behind their sorry backs, and with one elegant sword swing, handed out free tickets to the afterlife. Through the radio feed, the smug boss practically wet his pants hearing the slaughter. Panicking, he frantically scrolled social media, only to witness absolute anarchy trending across every platform. His genius master plan was crumbling into dust, and sheer clown makeup disbelief was plastered across his face. Once again, the overpowered hero strolls out without a scratch. To add insult to injury, he literally yeets their getaway car off the road, sending those goons straight to the afterlife. The crazy news goes viral worldwide. Suddenly, every single highway, city street, and national border goes on massive lockdown just to stop one angry dude. Meanwhile, so-called global experts start yapping on live television, dropping absolute nonsense about his motives. They keep scratching their heads asking why our guy chose violence. Bro, 3 whole years have passed since that horrific family tragedy, so they debate if this is an epic revenge arc, or if his brain has completely left the chat. Some talking heads even label him a total psycho. In their boring opinion, absolutely nothing justifies his one-man war, not even his tragic villain backstory. They preach that if he wanted to be the bigger person, he should have just called a lawyer or cried to his buddies for help. Yeah, right. While these boomers keep talking, the completely useless cops realize they cannot stop him at all. Panic mode activated. They actually consider handing out gear to random civilians to defend their own lives. Meanwhile, out on the streets, 2 random dudes are scrolling through the absolute chaos unfolding on the internet. In the endless sea of comments, the keyboard warriors are surprisingly defending our guy. Some are even crying heavy guilt trips, sobbing that society ignored him when he was down. They think ignoring his pain literally birthed this final boss. Down in the group chats, fans are desperately debating if that epic clash with the blonde dude was reality, or just heavy CGI. Completely fake, they spam links obsess over the blurry footage, and mind-blown ask how a human could even move like that. One troll actually wants to invite our overpowered god to his gaming squad. Seriously, the internet has zero chill right now. Back at the sweaty investigation headquarters, the suits are demanding updates. Tech squads frantically dig through every single crumb of our hero's dark past, interrogating every nosy neighbor he ever said hi to. One exhausted detective desperately asks if they found a single digital footprint, but nope. Even after hacking the Matrix and scrubbing the databases, the guy is a total ghost. The geeky analyst whines that a dude his age should be addicted to social media, dropping hints about his grand revenge. The female agent sighs, explaining that despite tearing the web apart, not a single meme or file exists from the past 3 years post-coma. Bro did not even make a fake account. And if he did, he scrubbed it cleaner than a whistle. Basically, he is literally invisible online. Next, the sweaty commander drops the bombshell that the elite strike team sent to the graveyard got absolutely clapped. The sheer embarrassment feels completely unreal. They are totally clueless about the beatdown that occurred, so they refuse to admit their squad got vaporized. But let us be real. Radio silence means they are taking a dirt nap. Everyone on site is missing in action. The boss is losing his mind that a top-tier unit got soloed so easily. Meanwhile, total paranoia kicks in. Agencies start spying on each other before sending backup. Because, after seeing that graveyard massacre, nobody wants to feed more rookies to the meat grinder. One frustrated desk jockey throws a massive tantrum. He screams about how one lone wolf is single-handedly wrecking them, and why their infinite budget cannot buy a win. Suddenly, every single hotline in the room rings at once. Plot twist. Another shadow faction has crashed the party and is aggressively ruining their plans. Cut to a different, equally stressed agency, where two suits are gossiping. One reveals they tracked down a woman named Go Ryujin, chilling in the United States. Apparently she is our overpowered boss's auntie. She snagged an American husband, loved the burgers, and just stayed across the pond. The sketchy boss asks if the shady trap is fully set. He barks orders to send the nearest goon squad straight to her peaceful suburban home, kidnap her immediately, and use her as the ultimate bait to reel in our unstoppable monster. His lackey eagerly nods, promising to ask nicely for a trip to Korea. But if she refuses, they will totally stuff her in a black van. Meanwhile, in sunny Los Angeles, California, at the aunt's doorstep, mysterious suits aggressively pound on the wood, pretending to be friendly embassy staff. She answers, confused, and these clowns immediately try to barge into her living room. Hold up. She demands to know why they have zero manners. The absolute audacity. The sketchy agent just smirks, begging her to stop resisting and open up, flashing that fake embassy badge. Backed up by her confused husband and son, she demands answers. The creep insists on an inside chat, but her danger sense is tingling hard. She hesitates to unlatch the lock. Then the agent drops the ultimate lore bomb about her nephew. He name-drops Seyoung, asking for confirmation. Shocked, she immediately admits they are blood. Panic sets in. She desperately asks if her sweet nephew is in danger. The suit chuckles, saying the kid has unlocked a colossal disaster tier of trouble. He promises answers if she unlocks it. Foolishly, she does, but waiting right behind these liars, a heavily armed tactical squad screaming at her to freeze. The lead agent aggressively verifies her ID, while she just stands there absolutely paralyzed by fear. Talk about the worst neighborhood watch ever. Meanwhile, halfway across the globe, Soo-yun and Soo-ho casually stroll together when Soo-yun's phone suddenly rings. It is another one of the infamous 8 targets, and from his shaky voice it is painfully obvious. He is absolutely terrified. Soo-yun groans, asking why he is bothering him. The trembling coward asks if Soo-yun is hurt. Soo-yun scoffs, telling him to worry about his own neck instead of calling for no reason. He brags about the heavy police protection at his house, but the guy keeps frantically checking if he is safe. His tone is completely unhinged, like he just saw a ghost. He desperately asks again if SWAT teams and elite guards are surrounding him. Soo-yun finds this terrified interrogation super suspicious, but proudly confirms that yes, he is guarded like a fortress. He laughs, saying if our main character even tries to attack him, he will just end up getting totally crushed. The coward is still acting weird, practically begging to know his exact safe house. Soo-yun finally admits he is not at home. He is hiding at a United States military base in Yongsan, absolute maximum security. Soo-yun gloats that no matter how hard our hero tries, he is untouchable. Nobody walks into a military base and lives. The sweaty guy on the phone stammers awkwardly, saying, "That does sound like a cozy place to hide." Soo-yun rolls his eyes at this paranoid behavior, reminding the idiot that absolutely nobody can enter without clearance. The guy sounds like he is about to pee his pants. Soo-yun finally hangs up the phone, annoyed that they have wasted so much time. But the second the call ends, the hilarious, terrifying truth drops. Standing right in front of the caller is none other than our overpowered protagonist. The guy drops to his knees, begging for mercy while shaking like a leaf. Meanwhile, the room is totally wrecked. Our hero obviously swept through, turning a whole squad of elite cops into absolute floor mats. Sobbing an absolute river, the loser cries that he followed orders and got Soo-yun's exact location. The United States base in Yongsan. He warns that attacking Soo-yoon's military base is pure suicide. He pathetically insists he only bullied our hero because Soo-yoon forced him to. Then he cries for his mommy, begging for his life and apologizing for the past. He desperately pleads for just one more chance to live. But staring into his pathetic, tear-filled eyes, our protagonist coldly drops his name, Hyun, our Grim Reaper. Reminds him of a fun fact. When our hero was the one bleeding and begging for mercy, did any of them care? When he was crushed on the floor, did Hyun offer a helping hand? Nope, not even close. Raising his gleaming sword, our hero looks him dead in the eye and casually says, "This is the absolute end. Tell God I said hi." And just like that, the coward is finished. Another target totally deleted. Meanwhile, in the emergency room, Professor Young is hanging by a thread. Honestly, the fact that this guy is not a ghost yet is a complete miracle. The dude is beaten into a total pulp but stubbornly still breathing. A frantic subordinate updates the old master about this absolute disaster, whining that everything is completely falling apart. He also reveals a hilarious detail. The cowardly executive director abandoned the dojo. After seeing our hero's monstrous strength, the guy packed his bags and ran. The old master sighs, saying, "That is fine." He honestly expected these weaklings to tuck their tails and run away. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. It is Soo-yoon's dad. After a tense silence, the big shots start chatting. The dad awkwardly assumes the old master must be losing sleep over this mess. But the crusty old man says his own headache can wait. Ever since Professor Young became a literal punching bag, things have looked super grim. After all, the poor professor took a brutal beating just to protect that spoiled brat. The old master coldly replies, "That is perfectly fine. His only job was to act as a human shield." Soo-yoon's father is drowning in guilt, crying about assigning the professor to that suicide mission. The professor had zero desire to babysit his family, and now he is enjoying a luxury coma, and it is all thanks to his useless, arrogant son. But the old master brutally cuts him off. The professor made his bed so he can sleep in it. Nobody forced him, so quit crying about it. It was just hilariously bad luck. In the martial arts world, if you agree to be a bodyguard, you better be ready to catch a sword with your teeth. That is the job description. Soo-yoon's dad offers a pathetic apology, but the old man waves it off, ready to talk about the real monster in the room. He saw the chaotic news. Our unstoppable protagonist still has not been caught and demands to know the game plan. The rich dad arrogantly chuckles, telling him to relax. He has already called in a massive army of elite soldiers to squash our hero like a bug. The old master scoffs, telling him to try his absolute best, because he refuses to sit back. He admits it has been 20 long years since he felt this spicy thrill of fear before, facing a true monster. This new enemy is so ridiculously overpowered that perhaps only one legendary fighter can actually survive 5 seconds against our rampaging protagonist. The old master snaps his fingers, ordering his men to summon the big boss. Enter Jang Yu. The assistant gasps, asking if he seriously wants to. "Wake up, the supreme leader of the Society of Purity." The old man's dramatic silence says everything. Buckle up, folks. This beast might just be the next epic boss fight for our hero. Meanwhile, over at the Blue House, the president is sweating bullets, demanding a full report on this absolute chaos and the survival of their precious VIPs. On the scrambled line, the official painfully reports that Congressman Jung's son from the finance department was found beautifully sliced and diced. The president practically drops his coffee in shock, but the official stammers that they are currently sweeping the bloody scene with 2 police divisions, plus a heavy detachment of elite soldiers originally sent to protect him. An entire squad erased. The president sweats bullets. "Impossible," he barks, begging for the target's exact coordinates. The intel officer gulps. "He is marching straight down Sejong Avenue, sir." Multiple strike teams are sweating in his shadow, but the president's next order drops jaws. "Listen closely. Wherever this walking calamity wants to go, let him. Do not engage." The officer questions his own sanity. Are they seriously rolling out the red carpet for a monster? Total media blackout, the president snarls. No reporters, no cameras. Anyone caught filming gets blackbagged instantly. The lackey is utterly baffled. Give the human wrecking ball absolute freedom. Nothing about this makes sense. "I will take the heat," the politician claims. Why? Because his grand presidential inauguration is exactly 2 days away. His precious public image is on the line. If citizens realize one guy is soloing their nation, his approval ratings will tank. The officer argues the painfully obvious. "Sir, you cannot hide a walking natural disaster forever." But the corrupt boss demands total censorship. Bury the news, shadow ban his existence, and scrub the internet clean. His deadly serious glare ends the debate. Defeated, the officer simply bows to the political madness. Meanwhile, out in the concrete jungle, our overpowered protagonist casually strolls sword in hand, parting a sea of screaming pedestrians. He is public enemy number 1. Yet he just wants to catch a ride. The bus stop miraculously empties out in seconds. He does not even glance at the fleeing NPCs. A bus approaches and he sighs, lamenting his forgotten transit card. The poor driver is just trying to earn a living. But locking eyes with the nation's most wanted, his soul leaves his body. Panic mode activated. The driver slams the gas instead of the brakes. Hell no, he is not picking up a raid boss. But physics. Never heard of her. With a single casual hand, our guy grabs the back bumper and brings the massive bus to a dead halt. The driver sheds tears of pure despair. Meanwhile, the protagonist politely announces he will be boarding now. Back in the VIP lounge of corruption, the president checks in with Soo-hyun's scheming father to hear his master plan. I shipped my boy to the American military base. The president facepalms. Why didn't he think of that genius loophole? Even for the mega-rich Shinjin group, sneaking a civilian past heavy foreign security is wild. How did he pull off that magic trick? The evil CEO smirks. I just dressed him up as a grunt. Child's play, really. The president is stumped. With the entire national army on high alert, slipping through the cracks should be completely impossible. But the Keeble boss delivers the punchline. That is the best part. We are using the entire foreign military as a giant meat shield. If the protagonist attacks, he declares war on a global superpower. The president practically drools over this ruthless trap. A true villain always has a backup plan. Smug the president brags about his own genius media blackout. Nothing will ruin his grand inauguration. High on confidence, he decides to stash his own VIP inside the exact same base. It is an impenetrable fortress, right, though a tiny sliver of doubt still crawls down the politician's spine. The CEO laughs off the paranoia. It is an allied stronghold. If anything goes wrong, they will bury the evidence for us. Plus, I have a private chopper idling on the roof. The president is completely starry-eyed at the escape route. Such flawless, cowardly preparation. Meanwhile, back to our hijacked public transit. The ride of terror continues. The driver is sweating buckets. But peering through the windshield, the protagonist spots something hilarious. The police are directing traffic away. They are literally escorting him. The driver stares at the cops in utter betrayal. Why aren't you arresting this guy? The world's deadliest passenger is right beside him. He screams internally, far too terrified to utter a single word out loud. Our hero chuckles at the VIP treatment. Are they blindly guiding him, or walking him straight into a carefully laid trap? Not that it matters, trap or no trap, he is going to crush them with absolute overwhelming force. Let them scheme. Anyone shielding those 8 corrupt targets will share their bloody fate. Absolute justice is coming. Over at the supposedly invincible Allied base, Seyoung and her mysterious female escort casually stroll through the heavily guarded gates. A quick memory flashes. The father practically begged, knowing this infiltration was suicidal, but the escort just smiled with pure confidence. Now they are inside the belly of the beast. At that exact moment, the military brass and one of the 8 targets are chilling out. They are laughing about the police playing tour guide for the nation's biggest threat. They assume he is wandering toward Maplio Bridge. Just let him walk, they chuckle. But then, the emergency phone rings. The voice on the line is screeching in pure panic. Stop him, halt the target right now. Wait, what? The do not engage order just evaporated. Suddenly, the arrogant chill in the room shatters into absolute chaos. What the hell is going on? The officer screams. The terrifying punchline drops. Has the monster already breached their impenetrable fortress? Understand how he bypassed security. But the panicked guard on the line dropped a hilarious truth bomb. It wasn't exactly a tactical breach. Our guy literally shattered the reinforced concrete wall like cheap glass. The guard couldn't wrap his head around it. That barrier was military grade, yet strolling through the rubble like it was a grand entrance, the hero was already inside. He roared Soo-hyun's name into the dust. With every ticking second, the ultimate beatdown grew closer. He was going to make that trash pay in blood. And talk about a buy one get one free deal, Seyoung was chilling right there too, meaning he was about to bag both villains in one epic swoop. Meanwhile, the base's special forces scrambled like kicked ants. Since this was American turf, the troops started screaming in English, demanding he raise his hands and surrender peacefully. The hero politely explained he was just doing some pest control. But the classic NPC soldiers completely ignored his logic, acting like broken records with their surrender demands. He specifically named his targets, but nobody cared. And that was when the last thread of his patience snapped. He launched himself into the sky. Turns out all lackeys are the same, throwing their lives away for absolute garbage. Well, if they wanted to play human shield, he was happy to oblige. Blade drawn, he sliced through the squad like a hot knife through butter. They even rolled out heavy tanks, but shockingly throwing metal boxes at a god was totally useless. After watching our guy swat away endless waves of troops like annoying mosquitoes, they radioed the main command center. One operator was sweating bullets. This absolute unit was pulling stunts wilder than anything on YouTube. A female officer gasped at the impossible footage. Another analyst cried out that their top-tier elites had been turned into floor mops in less than 60 seconds. She realized their secret combat android would be instant scrap metal. After all, their shiny toy was a prototype needing 20 more years in the oven. Scratch the killer robot idea. Sweating in desperation, one of the suits asked if they had any comic book super serums. Anything to turn a regular grunt into a muscular freak who could match this monster. The woman admitted they had top-secret juice that granted superhuman gains. But let's be real, the absolute max boost was a measly 30%. That wouldn't even make our protagonist blink, let alone struggle. Crickets chirped as deadly silence choked the control room. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the despair. It was the head scientist. Her eyes practically had dollar signs in them. She cheerfully asked who wanted to book a flight to Korea. Then she snapped at the commander to call off the attack dogs. She was drooling over the hero's insanely overpowered physique. And honestly, blowing him up would be a tragic waste of premium science. Her new obsession: bag this legendary specimen for the American labs and dissect his secrets. Meanwhile, our hero was getting seriously annoyed. Were these guys cloning themselves in the back? There was literally no end to the mob. For every guy he punted into orbit, 2 more spawned. He sighed, ready for an all-nighter, until a magical command echoed through the base. Cease fire. The troops awkwardly lowered their guns and parted like the Red Sea. He tilted his head. Were they rolling out the red carpet for him? How polite. Over in the capital, the Korean president was panicking. Hearing that a one-man apocalypse had entered United States territory was a diplomatic nightmare. An aide nervously explained that their local agents had been completely useless at stopping the breach. At that exact moment, the young female Special Forces agent got a frantic evacuation order. She was awkwardly third-wheeling in the same room as the Doom Squad, Soo-hyun, Soo-ho, and Soo-jung. The voice on her earpiece screamed to run for her life, but the radio died in a sudden crackle of static. She checked a nearby phone. 0 bars. A massive jammer had killed all communications. The color drained from her face. The final boss music was definitely playing in her head. Death was knocking. Back on the battlefield, our hero was highly suspicious of this sudden VIP treatment. The guards had basically turned into polite ushers at a movie theater. Whatever. He shrugged and strolled forward. His target was clear, and if any of these goons even sneezed in his direction, they were getting a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Inside the hideout, Soo-jung bragged about a chat she had with Suri. Apparently, they had cooked up a master plan to crush him permanently. Suri, looking totally clueless, asked what this genius plot was. Soo-jung smirked. The white-haired geezer guaranteed it would force our god-tier hero to crawl on his knees like an obedient puppy. Suri blinked. If this brilliant plan involved kidnapping the hero's aunt, he had already dispatched goons to do exactly that. But Soo-jung rolled her eyes. She wasn't an amateur villain. She had already snitched to her dad about the family weakness. Yet these two masterminds still looked hilariously confused about their own trap. While they kept flapping their gums, the Special Forces agent was practically gagging in the corner. These villains were toxically delusional. Suddenly, Suri whined about having a dry throat and demanded bottled water from the car. Soo-jung ordered him to fetch her one too, so he happily trotted off on his little errand. The terrified agent then whispered to Soo-jung, begging to move back to a secure room. Soo-jung scoffed. Why run and hide now? She really wanted to stick around with Sui. But playtime was officially over. The agent grabbed her shoulder with a death grip. Whispering a grim warning, she demanded they move right now. And talk about perfect timing, because the second they stepped into the hallway, a massive explosion rocked the building, dragging the girl like a rag doll. The agent yelled to run for her life. Meanwhile, Soo-hoon's VIP room was getting a violent makeover. The door blasted open, revealing our overpowered protagonist. He casually held a lifeless henchman by the neck, dropping the corpse like a broken toy. Watching this absolute nightmare unfold, the real Soo-hoon lost his mind in pure panic. Our hero kicked the trash aside, his eyes locked onto his prey. In a pathetic display, the coward crawled toward the exit, praying for an escape. Denied. The protagonist's blade danced through the air, instantly dropping a nearby meat shield. The remaining goons actually tried fighting back. Spoiler alert, it was completely useless, even with a spectacular explosion covering their tracks. Cut to Soo-hoon's dad, speeding down the highway like a complete maniac. He already sensed his precious son was getting wrecked, but thanks to a total signal blackout, the old man was flying totally blind, locked out of the security feed. Finally, catching a tiny sliver of service on the road, he aggressively dialed up his lackeys. The report: complete lockdown. Nobody gets in. They even tried dropping the heavy VIP name card, specifically Colonel Kessler. But the gate guards basically said, absolutely not. Hearing this embarrassing rejection, Soo-hun's daddy dearest boiled with absolute rage. Back to Junior. Soo-hun was sprinting for his miserable life, while our MC casually bulldozed through solid walls behind him. Praying to be saved, Soo-hun burst into Soo-jung's room. Plot twist. It was completely spotless and totally empty. His so-called ally had completely ditched him. He stood there, flabbergasted by her epic betrayal. How dare she run away? But looking over his shoulder, reality hit hard. His entire elite squad was wiped out. Now it was just him against the final boss. His legs gave out, collapsing onto the cold floor. Glaring down with pure killer intent, our hero chanted the villain's name, mocking his desperate fate like a broken record. Time for a quick villain origin story. 3 years ago, our boy was just minding his business, casually leaving class with some boring paperwork with a girl walking right beside him. Cue teenage Soo-hun, glaring like a jealous goblin. This classic high school bully was itching to throw hands for absolutely zero reason. Making our MC's life miserable was his favorite hobby. Snap back to reality. Soo-hun acts tough, daring the protagonist to finish the job. He runs his mouth, claiming nobody can touch him, but our MC just flashes a demonic grin. Challenge accepted. Idiot. Cornered like a rat, Soo-hun pulls his ultimate trap card. He threatens the MC's beloved aunt, spewing absolute garbage. He confidently delivers the most cliché villain monologue ever. He claims the world is cruel, and collateral damage is mandatory. Big mistake. That only fueled the protagonist's blazing fury. Suddenly, his dad's voice booms over the base intercom, proudly declaring the aunt's location was compromised. A smug, punchable smirk returned to Soo-hun's face. Daddy was here to save the day. Feeling invincible again, he taunted our hero to strike. But oh, the sweet irony of instant karma. Over that very same loudspeaker, an American soldier interrupted the broadcast. He smoothly announced that the beloved aunt was under maximum level protection by the US government. She was already chilling in a top-secret, heavily fortified safe house. Soo-hun's smug smile evaporated instantly. Hostage plan. Deleted. Now, he was totally screwed, trembling at the monster before him. Meanwhile, across the globe, a brilliant scientist watched the feed, totally obsessed with our MC's ruthless efficiency. She laughed at Soo-hun's pathetic hostage strategy, calling it a rookie mistake that was hilariously easy to crush. Then, her assistant drops a massive bombshell. The United States president's daughter was trapped in that very same building. They urgently needed extraction. The scientist wanted to just grab popcorn and watch the carnage, but letting a VIP die was bad for business. Rolling her eyes, she finally gave the green light to deploy the rescue chopper. Save the VIP first. Enjoy the slaughter later. With the extraction order officially sent, she leaned back in her chair. As the room emptied, her twisted fascination with this overpowered anomaly grew. She couldn't wait to meet him face to face. Back at the blood-soaked military base, the bully was getting exactly what he deserved. Crawling like a pathetic worm, he noticed he was missing a few crucial parts. Specifically, the legs he used to stand on. Looking down at the newly amputated trash, our hero listens to him cry about why this was happening. The MC just sighs. He actually wanted to make this a quick, painless execution. But considering the endless garbage this arrogant fool pulled, a brutal reckoning was his only destiny. He mercilessly reminded the bleeding coward of his massive, unbreakable ego. Villains like him never learn. They never repent. So after all that trash talk, total annihilation was his only reward. Our boy cooked up something extra spicy just for this moment. A little parting gift that burns real slow. Time to say bye-bye. A massive inferno engulfs his blade. The exact same epic fire from the rooftop brawl way back when. He points that blazing hazard right at Soo-hyun. You can guess the crispy results. Meanwhile, the internet was absolutely losing its mind, screaming that he breached a US military base. Global panic engaged. Though some keyboard warriors cried fake news because who actually believes in anime powers in modern times? Back at the military gate, Soo-hyun's dad pulls up and demands VIP access. He tries to flex his way in, but the guards hit him with a massive denial. The dude is throwing a legendary boomer tantrum, popping veins and screaming, "Do you know who I am?" Classic villain dialogue. But inside, Soo-hyun was finally getting a taste of the protagonist's family trauma. Look, I can't get banned by describing the spicy details, but use your imagination. Bro was getting the exact same brutal VIP package that the main character's parents got. The protagonist drops a cold one-liner, hoping the bully finally feels a fraction of that agony. Back to angry dad outside. He's literally trying to shoulder check his way in, but the military guard is like orders from the big boss, "Sir, you're not getting through." In response, the dad literally slaps the poor guard. But then reality hits him. He switches to serious mode, realizing nobody gains a single thing by crossing him. So if his massive ego is being ignored, things inside must be apocalyptic. If he tried to play tough guy now, he'd be the one taking a massive loss. And honestly, he knows survival 101. The guards were just non-player characters following orders. His brain finally reboots, realizing an absolute disaster class is unfolding inside. He demands his phone back, but the guards hit him with the no signal warning. The entire zone is totally jammed. All he can do is sweat outside while his son gets absolutely cooked by the protagonist. Meanwhile, the info broker kid gives the president the ultimate status update: his daughter survived. A secretary bursts in waving a call from the bodyguard assigned to his kid. The president practically dives for the phone, demanding a sitrep from Agent Nam. She drops the good news the girl is safe and tells the boss man to chill out. She passes the phone to Seyoung, who promises she's alive and well. Not a single scratch on her. She explains that her bodyguard's survival senses tingled, so they bailed out fast. Sighing with relief, the president asks for the agent again. The agent confirms they're rushing to the extraction chopper and flying to safety. For now, they're going full stealth mode. The president praises the hustle, but then drops the million-dollar question, "Are the boys with you?" The agent freezes. The president's big brain connects the dots. If his daughter managed to escape the boss fight, why didn't the other two? The agent awkwardly admits she only pulled off the escape because the protagonist was too busy unleashing pure karma on the other guys. She apologizes, basically confessing she used those rich kids as total meat shields. The president hits her with the "you did great, no apologies needed," but then adds, "keep your mouth shut. If this leaks, they are entirely cooked." Intentional or not, throwing kids to the wolves gives the rival political party ultimate ammo to destroy his administration. He orders absolute silence, top secret level. She breathes a sigh of relief, promising to take this secret to the grave. The president thanks her for the clutch save, but the second he hangs up, angry dad is calling. At the base, the furious father demands to know if the president's daughter went inside too. The answer, big yes. The guard confirms he saw the girl and her agent slip past the gates. The angry dad is mind blown. How is the president ignoring his calls during a literal crisis, yet totally chill about his own kid? He figures the president is just a power-hungry boomer who forgot his family. Or at least that's the assumption, completely unaware she's already safe. I can't wait to see his face when he learns the president's kid got the VIP rescue, while his precious son was used as absolute bait. Back at the base, he's just raging in the waiting area. Then a police car drifts into the scene and a breathless cop bursts in with breaking news. Out in the city, 2 corrupted cops just got folded, and everyone is pointing fingers at our protagonist. Plot twist. What if he actually glitched out of the lockdown base? They thought these bodies were his handiwork, while the entire world still believed he was inside serving vengeance. If he dropped cops outside, he must have pulled a ghost escape. At another desk, intel says last night near a mall, 2 officers got officially packed up. But wait, why are the newspapers and the internet quieter than a ghost town? The guy is sweating buckets. After all, the madman stormed a US base and deleted those 2 corrupt cops. So, how is this absolute cinematic chaos missing from the news? Simple. The president of Korea, Soo-jong's dad, slammed the lid on the information flow to save his presidency. When the gruesome photos dropped, the 2 dead officers were instantly identified as Kim Yong-jun and Chim Yong-ji. Since they were fully uniformed when it all went down and carrying IDs, identification was a total breeze. The boss demanded answers. The verdict. Both cops were on active duty last night, but absolutely nobody knew why they were there. The crime scene wasn't on their patrol route and 0 dispatch records existed. They didn't even bother taking a police cruiser. Officially, it looked like straight-up desertion. Worse, the only tip-off was an anonymous call. They had absolutely nothing to go on except it went down around 11 at night. The boss was fuming. If Tyson had slipped away, they should have gotten a warning to mobilize. Instead, a dangerous fugitive was running wild. He couldn't believe the United States, the supposed global superpower, could completely drop the ball like this. Suddenly, an underling piped up. Someone called in claiming they had the juicy details on the dead duo. Meanwhile, base officers rolled up to the crime scene. And boy, it was an absolute bloodbath. I literally cannot show you this on YouTube, so use your imagination. Up ahead, they found Soo-hyun looking like extra crispy barbecue. Seriously well done meat. The officer stared in sheer horror, realizing our main character was an absolute menace. The dude's condition was way past critical. He looked absolutely petrified, yet his burnt body was still twitching. They figured it was just a morbid nervous reflex. Because surviving that level of roasting, a literal miracle. One guy asked if they should call a doctor, but the grim answer was a hard no. The best play was to just ditch him, lock down the area, and start scrubbing. Shockingly, Soo-hyun was still awake. Tears of pure regret streamed down his crispy face. Karma really hit him with a reverse Uno card. Outside, our overpowered hero was just chilling until heavily armed soldiers blocked his path. One guard barked that a VIP from his homeland was desperately dying to meet him. Our boy just looked around and launched himself into the sky to bounce. But the soldier frantically screamed that the VIP was the exact guy who saved his precious aunt from getting hurt. This mysterious big shot was the one who personally ordered her safety. The second those words hit his ears, the protagonist instantly aborted his flight and landed. Hey, anyone who shields his aunt gets a free pass, so he casually strolled inside with the nervous guards. They politely begged him to rest up, promising the mystery guest would arrive by morning. They bribed him with an absolute feast and fancy fresh clothes. They even made sure to say he was totally free to wander around. Basically, they were absolutely terrified of him. After profusely sweating and apologizing, the guards scrambled out, leaving our hero to chill in peace. By the next morning, Seyoung was dressed to impress, and his mystery caller turned out to be Popo, started giving a super-friendly villain speech about America's grand plan, but Takashi instantly shut him down and told him to spit it out. Po nervously chuckled at the 18-year-old's zero-chill attitude, so he dropped the bomb. Uncle Sam wanted him on the payroll. The American base was fully fortified sovereign territory under their total control. They had totally meddled in his violent little revenge quest, and now Poe desperately wanted our guy to team up for mutual benefits. He bragged that the United States government and his own squad were the heroes who blocked Korea from kidnapping his aunt. The enemy had strict orders to snatch her on American soil as a hostage, but America said nope and whisked her away to maximum security safety. The protagonist raised an eyebrow asking if Korea really pulled this dirty move, and Poe nodded. He blamed shady Korean agents operating under a secret guild called Cassia. Sweating buckets, Poe promised VIP protection for the whole family if he just signed up. But before Poe could finish his pitch, our boy interrupted. Since Poe brought him to this fancy hotel base, he'd grant the guy one single favor. Poe eagerly squeaked that he only wanted to discuss the sweet protection deal for him and his aunt. But nope, cut off again. Our hero glared, warning that Poe better understand one simple fact. If a single hair falls from his aunt's head, Poe will be the first one buried. And if he finds even a tiny scratch on her, the wrath of a god will fall upon him, and the entire United States will burn to ashes, all thanks to Poe. He better carve that threat into his soul. Poe instantly turned ghost white. Utter pants-wetting terror washed over his face. Takashi wasn't joking around. Anyway, moving right along. Safe inside a fancy car, they zoomed back to where he originally dropped our scary hero off. During the ride, Poe sat there rethinking his entire life, regretting his failed persuasion attempt. The recruitment completely flopped, leaving the poor diplomat sweating bullets in the ultimate awkward position. Slumped in the back seat, he caught Takashung's death glare, the kind that makes grown men want their mommies. When the ride finally stopped, they hit the jackpot. The guy pointed at a shady tunnel, claiming it was the ultimate VIP exit, with zero paparazzi. Our boy headed out. But wait, the guy suddenly played the I have secret intel card, dropping exactly what our main character ordered. A fresh hit list of the remaining 8 targets. The closest dummy was Young Da-hun in Yongdongo. As for the anime hair twins, Kim Jun with the white hair and Kim Yu with the green, they were just chilling at home. But honestly, they were way too relaxed for guys on a revenge hit list. Super suspicious, right? The scientist noted they acted like our overpowered protagonist was just a minor bug. Then he dropped the real bomb. He asked if the name Bae Haeyeon rang a bell. Instantly, our hero's eyes went wide. Yep, the damsel he saved back in the day. The scientist revealed a very creepy detail. Whenever those colorful-haired weirdos talked about our main character, her name always popped up. Cue the boss music. A terrifying, monstrous aura exploded from Takashung. The poor scientist absolutely lost it, thinking he just triggered his own game over. But poof, in a flash, our guy parkoured into thin air. The scientist's soul nearly left his body, but he lived to tell the tale. Meanwhile, going full ninja across the rooftops, Takashung sprinted toward wherever Heon was hiding. He followed the coordinates, and trust me, that murder face meant playtime was officially over. Cut to the other side of town, a detective was grilling some sweaty dude. This guy was singing the exact same tune about Bae Haeyeon. Turns out she was the hidden victim from that massive cluster mess 3 years ago. You know, the one with 10 people, our hero's parents, and the 8 trash mobs? The detective squinted, asking how he knew all this top-secret lore, since her file was practically non-existent. The sweaty dude confessed that back then he got the distress call for 2 half-dead students, 1 boy, 1 girl. 2 ambulances rolled out that day. But later magic, the record suddenly claimed only 1 ambulance existed, and the other just poofed into thin air. The detective's jaw dropped. Classic villain move. They actively scrubbed this poor girl right out of reality. Shaking like a leaf, the informant offered to spill the hospital tea and name-drop the corrupt medics involved. Back then, hiding her existence was treated like a national security threat, sweeping every single breadcrumb under the rug. Meanwhile, in the creepy ward of the local loony bin, someone was going full Picasso on the padded walls. Yep, it was Bae Haeyeon. and as she stared at her lovely doodle of 2 dead cops, she casually apologized, basically saying, "Oops, my bad, no choice." Ding ding ding, the plot thickens. Those 2 missing cops who went snooping around. Turns out our innocent little damsel was the one who sent them to the Shadow Realm. A total solo carry. We still don't know why, but those dirty cops definitely knew too much. Higher up on her crazy wall, another totally unhinged sketch showed our hero's dead parents. And in her head, she was chanting his name like a total yandere fangirl. Back at the interrogation room, the detective is sweating for answers about Haeyeon. The snitch explains how they were bullied into doing the whole one ambulance magic trick. The detective yells, "Why was Taeyoung's info public, but hers wasn't?" The guy admits they took the filthy rich bribe money. Even Taeyoung's poor parents died thinking the girl didn't make it. The detective is absolutely raging now, hiding something this huge for years. The snitch looks like he's about to cry, his voice cracking. He whines about how heavy his guilty conscience was, so he had to spill the beans. Big money can silence anyone, and his cowardly family just folded like a cheap suit. When asked about the girl's family, oh, they got a fat paycheck, which just makes the detective want to punch a wall. Hush money doesn't revive dead people genius, and it definitely didn't stop the tragedy with Taeyoung's parents. The snitch babbles on. Every single witness to Haeyeon's state got a golden ticket to shut their mouths. Basically, her whole existence was deleted. But wait, there's more. He claims our main character's tragedy was a millimeter away from being deleted too. That's why he finally grew half a spine to confess. And right as he's about to drop the legendary name of the cop killer, he chokes up, paralyzed by fear, knowing this spoiler might get him offed. Suddenly, bam, the door gets kicked open. A rookie yells that Taeyoung's location logs just dropped. He was busy leaving the US military base for Gangnam. But hold on. If our boy was playing soldier at the base, he literally couldn't have killed those cops. The detective's brain short-circuits as the horrible, hilarious truth hits him. Exactly who the real mastermind is. He barks orders to call Mr. Whitehair and Miss Greenhair immediately, asking what on earth they are doing. Why? Because our absolute menace of a protagonist is heading straight for them. His brain works overtime. If Taeyong was at the base, then who did the deed? The math finally starts mathing, and he realizes who really pulled the strings. Meanwhile, cut to Greenhair's house. Homegirl is sitting there, looking totally bored. Like, "Miss Ma'am, the world is ending." Suddenly, a viral video pops up. It is Taeyong, speed walking straight into her zip code. Her bored expression. Deleted. Panicking, she spams Whitehair's phone, screaming at him to check his feed. Bro is just annoyed at first. Like, who scrolls social media during an apocalypse? But he opens the app and freeze frames. Taeyong is literally power walking toward their neighborhood. The internet. They are eating it up, taking bets on who gets folded first, turning their doom into top-tier memes. Whitehair is fuming. Keyboard warriors would not laugh if this boss monster was at their door. He yells for his mom, who is casually chilling, in the kitchen with a bunch of bodyguards. He drops the bomb. Taeyong is coming. The vibe instantly goes from zero to panic. He tells everyone to pack up and run. The boss could detour at any second, so it is time to tactically retreat. But wait, a guard drops the bad news. He is heading to the Gray complex. Whitehair turns pale. Eugene lives there. He furiously mashes her number. The call connects, and he starts frantically warning her, but something is very off. The breathing on the other line. Not hers. He yells her name. Dead silence. He does the math, and the answer is fatal. He books it for the exit. His mom demands to know where he is running. He basically yells that they need to dip before the Grim Reaper knocks on their door. Mom is delusional, flexing that the military is protecting them. Bro is like, the army. That is just extra experience points for him. If Taeyong arrives, it is game over. But he claims he has a backup plan. He forces a psycho smile, clearly losing his absolute mind. Meanwhile, our confused investigator is still scratching his head. He glares at the suspect in the chair. What on earth happened to Chaeyeon? The tied-up guy just snorts, claiming she has got to be 6 feet under by now, which totally ruins the investigator's big brain theory. The suspect swears, there is 0 chance she survived that mess. The investigator immediately orders his sidekick to dig up everything on Chaeyeon, scour the databases, and bring back the tea. Right now, he turns back for more answers, asking about her parents. But before we get the lore drop, the camera violently pans back to our main character. He is staring down fully armed soldiers. He basically tells them to move, or become floor mats. Back at base, commanders are crying because literally nothing can stop this guy's rampage. Meanwhile, Whitehair is having a total meltdown. He is begging his mom to evacuate. But guess who just spawned inside Greenhair's room? Yep, our protagonist literally holds her by the neck. She cries for mercy, claiming she spilled the truth. But my guy is not having it. He screams, "Where is Chaeyun?" He has turned the city upside down and found absolute zero. It is literally as if she got deleted from the server. He pins green hair to the wall. Their cover-up was so insanely good, he thought he was hallucinating her existence. But with her family's stupid amount of money, they could hide anything. And playing the clueless victim card, denied. If she keeps yapping about not knowing a single thing, she is just catching herself in a lie. He squeezes harder, letting all his traumatic flashbacks fuel his absolute rage. Then, boom, he slams her into the concrete so hard the wall shatters. And that is a wrap for her. Another boss down. 7 left to go. Meanwhile, over at the sketchy hospital, Whitehair crashes the party with his squad of goons. He yells at the staff, disrespectfully shoves a poor doctor into the shadow realm, and stomps toward Chaeyun's private room. He kicks the door open, smirking like a cartoon villain. Long time no see, but wait a minute. Homegirl is looking totally unhinged. Like she has been waiting to throw hands. Suddenly, a random minion yells that Chaeyun is on the move. Before bro can even blink, she is up and sprinting at him. With absolute demon speed. Jump scare, outside the hospital, total apocalyptic chaos, as our boy finally pulls up, with his giant sword. Using the front door, too boring, he literally power jumps through the concrete floor, skipping the elevator entirely. Soldiers try to block him, but we all know how this anime ends. He speed blitzes, right through them. After treating the guards like bowling pins, he marches to her door. He peeks through the glass and sees red paint absolutely everywhere. Spoiler alert, it is not paint. He kicks open the door, expecting to find a total tragedy. But the plot twist waiting inside, yeah, the girl is definitely not the victim here. Perfectly fine. The white-haired guy, though, yeah, he is completely wrecked. His current state is way too graphic for the screen. He looks like a crushed tomato. His mother wails, screaming about how they dared touch her precious boy, demanding to know who they think they are. But before Karen can finish her rant, Chaeyun absolutely silences her. She casually drops that Takasung's parents probably cried the exact same way. Then she flashes a completely unhinged smile. Our main character just stares, eyes totally bugged out, realizing this girl is way crazier than he ever imagined. Flashback time. We jump back to the day Shaun transferred into his class. Fresh out of Hoyan Girls' School, she stood at the front, dropping the classic, "I hope we can all be friends" line. The teacher hyped her up, bragging about her top-tier grades, and warned the class to step up or get left in the dust. Snap back to reality. The main character looks at her with dead fish eyes. He still cannot process that she is actually breathing. Cue another flashback. Here she is, playing the hero, digging through trash for him. He tells her to back off, marking the first time she hears his voice. Honestly, she probably thought he was mute until now. He plays it tough, claiming he lost nothing and needs zero help. She totally calls his bluff, because the cold truth is right in those garbage bags. The 8 had trashed his school supplies. She already did the math and was dumpster diving on his behalf. He drops a grim warning. If anyone catches her helping him, she becomes the next target. Her master plan: if anyone looks, she will just join in and bully him too. Pretend she is mocking his misery so she stays off the hit list. He is absolutely stunned by her twisted logic. He bites his lip, secretly touched that someone would dumpster dive for him, jump to another memory. Shy pulls him into an empty classroom for a secret chat. He is sweating bullets. If the school mob catches them, she is totally doomed to be the class clown. But she casually drops a bomb. She got confessed to. He gives a dry congratulations, but she pokes him, asking if he is seriously not curious about the guy. He deadpans that she is pretty and popular, so duh, it happens. She pushes again. You really do not want to know who got rejected. Boom. She reveals it was Lele Suhu, a literal boss from the 8. His jaw practically hits the floor. He panics, reminding her that Suhu is the president's son, backed by a terrifyingly elite academic family. But she just shrugs. She hates his vibes. The guy is a walking red flag. She laughs, saying his confession was a total joke, mainly because his entire squad was third-wheeling. The jerk literally said high-class people should stick together, like some snobby cult invitation. Skip to the next memory. He asks if she has after-school plans. She happily nods. Her squad wants to hang out at the park. She explains that Haejung is setting up a crossover episode, with some kids from another class. But the main character immediately hits the brakes. Do not go. She protests, saying her friends are already ghosting her, and Haejung is the last lifeline she has left. He does not care. It is a trap. She asks why he is being so paranoid. If she bails now, she will be officially cancelled by the whole class. He drops the brutal truth. You are already cancelled. She is totally clueless. He explains the manhwa logic. You rejected Lee Soo-hoo, so the whole school put a bounty on you. She is stunned, but he lays it out. If you go to that park, the boss mob will ambush you. And if you do not play their sick games, your social life is over and you become their permanent puppet. She naively asks what kind of games they play, and he hits her with the heavy stuff. Do you do drugs, smoke, steal things just for fun? Yeah, you get the dark picture. He warns her flat out. If your record is clean, they will forcibly dirty your hands. Refuse, and you become the ultimate outcast. School life over. Smash cut to another memory. He is taking his daily beating like a champ, but suddenly, a wild savior appears. It is Seyoung. Her face is forever branded into his soul. Even battered and bruised, she is the exact same angel from before, back in the present. He gently touches her face, pulling her into a shaking, desperate hug, whispering her name. Then, boom. Another memory drags us back to the worst day ever. He is eating dirt, having completely failed to save Ji-yoon from the mob. The stiff-haired thug barks, asking who gave this trash permission to play hero. On the floor, all he can do is groan. The punk sneers. Why so obsessed with our new toy? Who said you could steal our entertainment? He violently demands to know what this girl actually means to him. Across the room, she is totally wrecked on the ground too. The green-haired bully smirks, saying they need to thoroughly break his little toy. The white-haired psycho complains about the noise. Like, chill out. The guy who actually got dumped was Lohu. The president's stuck-up Han daughter chimes in, gossiping about how these two losers spend all their time together. Are you two secretly dating? He stays completely silent. Honestly, with his face caved in, he physically cannot speak. Lohu just laughs like a maniac and asks if they're actually a couple. Soo-Yoon's brain short-circuits. Dating, no way. He thought those two were just talking. Meanwhile, the VIP's spoiled daughter glares at him for ruining her twisted little game. Stepping closer, he realizes he's just pouring gas on Soo-jong's blazing rage. Cue the classic trash-tier villain behavior. Our hero begs them to stop offering literally anything just to keep their filthy hands off Seyoung. But that psycho's creepy smirk says it all. The absolute worst-case scenario is happening. But plot twist. Out of nowhere, Zoon is suddenly on her feet, chilling by the window. And without a single word, she just jumps. The goons totally freak out, thinking she just rage-quit life. Our main character's face is pure shock, his brain totally failing to process this absolute nightmare. Fast forward to the hospital, he gently touches her cheek just to make sure she's not a ghost. When he breathes her name, she holds his face, teasing him for being a total crybaby. She jokes he looks like a completely different person now. She knows he has a million questions, but survival comes first. Time to ditch this place. They make a run for the door and step right into a mob of beefy security guards. Judging by our hero's death glare, he is 0% in the mood for a boss fight. But before he throws hands, a mystery guy steps up Xenon's inside man. Clearly our girl plays 4D chess and knew her allies all along. She hits him with a smooth good job, while the insider tells them to stick to the prison break script. She grabs our hero, and the dynamic duo pulls a slick vanishing act into a stolen police cruiser. Inside, she casually admits they barely escaped by pure dumb luck. Switching gears, she notes he's practically dying to know the whole story, but instead of spilling the tea, she just stares. When did you get so huge? Where's my cute little Taeyong? Our guy is still mentally buffering. He seriously thought he'd never see her breathing again. She pouts, asking if he's just going to stay mute like an NPC. But all he cares about is if she's hurt anywhere completely shattered, that he thought she was gone forever. Suddenly, her tough girl act crumbles. She grabs him, breaking down into ugly tears, repeating over and over, "I'm right here, I didn't die." She sobs out a heavy apology for leaving him in the dark. At this point, the emotional dam bursts. It's a full-on cry fest as he tightly holds onto her like a lifeline. Flashing back to the hell they endured, they're just insanely lucky the other is still breathing. Anyway, back to the boring interrogation room. Skipping the filler dialogue, the detective demands to know who permanently deleted those two cops, and if Baeksoon's shady parents pulled the trigger. Sweating bullets, the guy swears the parents didn't kill the cops. Why? Because the parents got wiped out in a car crash 1 year ago. A total party wipe. The detective is completely lost now, but the snitch drops a truth bomb. Her parents were absolute trash tier. The detective asks to clarify what kind of trash we're talking about. Trembling, the guy reveals they literally bought everyone's silence. $10 million just to keep the truth buried. Meanwhile, back in the getaway truck, he is getting the exact same lore drop from Baeksoon. She asks if he wants to hear how her scumbag parents cashed in on her misery to fake her status. The hero is too stunned to speak. Like, who even does that? Barely holding it together, she reveals they got paid $200 million to zip their lips about her tragedy. Long story short, her own flesh and blood traded her trauma for a fat paycheck. They basically sold their daughter to the highest bidder. And wait, it gets worse. After securing the bag, they hunted down every single witness who knew the real story, bribing the entire server to stay perfectly quiet. They essentially hit the reset button, erasing Becky Yoon's existence, all masterminded by her greedy parents who treated her like loose change. Hearing this absolute villainy, Tisaya realizes the sheer hell she survived alone. He punches the truck so hard the entire vehicle swerves like crazy. She tells him to chill out. All this drama was ages ago, so raging now won't fix a thing. She casually mentions her one-year coma nap, but notes he took a similar tragic backstory hit, asking when he found out his parents got deleted too. But our protagonist still can't cool down his face, a total mask of blazing fury. She explains that when she finally woke up, the NPCs around her spilled all her parents' dirty secrets. Honestly, she admits she kind of wished she'd just taken the game over screen right then so she wouldn't have to deal with this insane plotline. Cutting the angst short, Becky demands to know where her awful parents are now after all their toxic behavior. Oh, them dead. Wiped out in a crash 1 year ago. Instant karma. Boom, scene change. We're back in the creepy hospital room, featuring a literal drawing of the fatal crash on the wall. After one heck of a road trip, they finally hit their final waypoint. The master plan: hop on a boat and completely ghost the soldiers hunting them. Our hero keeps playing 20 questions about her family tree. Where is her brother? Well, she says he was dragged off to the military right after their parents died. Seyoung is totally baffled. Who just leaves their sister alone like that? But plot twist, it was not his choice. While walking home, the military police basically kidnapped him to enlist. Classic villain move, controlling everyone connected to this poor girl. Our main character says he has heard enough. He gets the tragic backstory. But wait, she says. There is more. Is he not curious about the mysterious helpers? He dramatically cuts her off. Leave it to him. He will happily smash the faces of everyone involved, everyone who made her cry. She politely declines, saying he does not need to suffer. Bro already has enough trauma. But he flexes, saying it is a piece of cake. He promises to personally crush every single trash mob who put her through this mess. He even offers a duo revenge package deal. But she just lowers her head, hiding her eyes, and hits him with a super creepy smile. She says thanks, but no thanks. She absolutely does not need his help, and he should sit down. He is completely shook. She insists that she must be the one to wreck them. Only then will the payback feel sweet. She needs that main character energy, getting her own hands dirty, or it just feels cheap. To her, that is peak revenge. Then she casually confesses to deleting 2 corrupt cops last night. Yep, the exact same scumbags from that tragic night where it all went down. And she chopped her hair to cosplay as him. Now the cops definitely think he committed the crime. Oops, sorry. She originally planned to play stealth assassin, keeping her revenge completely in the shadows without anyone noticing. But after watching Seyoung go totally goblin mode and smash his enemies, she finally found the absolute courage to face them head on. She is ready for maximum overkill mode. Everyone simply must know that the two of them are the ultimate boss monsters here. Together, they will happily crush every single hater. Meanwhile, back at the police station, the witness spills the tea about the parents. He claims right before the tragic crash, on the exact day that viral video leaked, the bad guys showed up. They said the whole entire state was in absolute chaos. Things were blowing up and hush money was the fix. Everyone was ordered to completely zip their lips about what went down. Play nice, get a massive payday, but everyone there instantly knew this was definitely not a friendly offer. It was a death threat. Refuse and you meet the Grim Reaper. The guy swears he tried to say no, but these villains were terrifying. Everyone was sweating bullets. Ignoring their demands was literally impossible unless you actively wanted a game over. The investigator is completely mind-blown. This sounds like a crazy movie plot, but the sweating witness continues. A few days later, the crash wiped out Seyoung's parents, and he absolutely knows it was no accident. Boom, he has receipts. He flashes his phone. On the exact day of the crash, a creepy text read, "Wait, you are next." Talk about sinister. The entire fatal crash was perfectly scripted by the villains. The investigator rubs his temples. This makes zero sense. Who ordered the hit? The corrupt officials taking the bribes, random thugs, or maybe Seyoung? Big detective brain fart. He forgot the guy was literally in a coma. So, that theory goes poof. Suddenly, the door flies open. Another angry boss marches in, yelling that he told him to investigate the parents. He yells, "Why are you slacking?" But the investigator just sighs. There is nothing to investigate because our hero is totally alive and kicking. The boss is utterly confused. The detective drops the news he is rushing to meet the girl. The cops and military are already swarming their location. The investigator grinds his teeth and curses. Why are normal cops even here? This is a tactical job. Regular police are just annoying cannon fodder. Things are looking terribly bad. Meanwhile, back on the boat, the edgy girl tells him to keep grinding his revenge quest. She will not stop hers either. They should play solo mode and not steal kills. She dramatically claims that her dark revenge is a solo boss raid. But our hero refuses. He has seen zero proof that she can actually survive a real fight, and he is terrified she will get game overed. But she keeps rambling that this trash world needs a hard reset, and the less evil breathing our air the better. That is why she must absolutely delete every bad guy. Sweating, he asks how a complete newbie plans to do that, and she vows to build a new world. Bro, she is going full Kira mode, totally obsessed with wiping out evil. And her crazy eyes scream, she has totally lost her marbles. Suddenly, a massive yacht approaches way bigger than the tiny dinghy they are on. Inside sits an old dude radiating major evil cult leader vibes. When the creepy boat finally docks, it is obvious our edgy girl knows him. She complains he took too long, thinking he actually ghosted her. The creepy geezer chuckles, noting she was still recruiting the hero. Plot twist. She calls the old dude master, expecting everyone to instantly bow down. Leave together. Grandpa waves our edgy hero over, but he is glued to the floor. The old guy sighs they should not force the emo kid. Let him follow his brooding heart. Glaring daggers, our hero demands to know this geezer's true identity. The guy pulls the classic no-name trope, just a mystical GPS for lost souls. For now, that vague nonsense is enough. He drops an open invite, but our boy stays totally frozen, until he finally drops a hard nope. Like the lady said, everyone gets their own revenge buffet, and his plate is full. So he stays put. The girl acts all heartbroken. Meanwhile, the dude next to her chuckles, muttering that these edgy teenagers are pure entertainment. Cue the dramatic engine rev. Her boat speeds off into the great blue yonder. Inside, she awkwardly clutches a gun. The smirking guy asks why her brooding bestie ditched them when he had the perfect getaway. She coldly claims she just met the guy. He is not in their club. The man warns her not to treat him like some mental ward patient. Bam! She shoves the barrel in his face, asking if he wants to repeat that sass. Then she rants about building a utopian nation. Totally unbothered, the dude warns this is her last chance to drop the toy. Keep aiming, and she loses her breathing privileges. His killer aura flares up. Naturally, she immediately doubles down and aims higher, but Grandpa jumps in to babysit. He yells they must stop Takase-1 from snatching the Chinese president's kid. They need to grab the VIP first. The girl asks why she should care, and he yells if anything breaks that spoiled brat, the timeline goes kaboom. They must fix this epic mess before Takase-1 finally corners their squad. Stopping this ensures everyone survives, especially Takase-1. Meanwhile, in a wild tone shift, we cut to the absolute misery of the 8 victims' parents. Yep, they are taking the whole losing a child thing terribly. In his luxury ride, Soo-Yun-ho's dad faces a harsh reality. Suddenly, his driver gets a wild call confirming Jang Soo-jung. The president's precious kid conveniently hopped a military flight the exact same day. Everything went south, and surprise, she is perfectly peachy. Hearing the VIP survived makes Dad go goblin mode. He curses the boss's actual name, calling him a scumbag. How dare the princess stay safe while his own son got totally wrecked. Meanwhile, our raging hero nabbed the investigator. He violently demands the exact coordinates of Soo-jung. The terrified guy spills she hits Chong Airport tomorrow. He cries, swears he is honest, and begs our psycho hero to just chill out and let it go. The hero yeets him into next week. Does he survive? Who cares? Because right now, he has the VIP's current and future GPS coordinates. Time for a manhunt. Back at the boring National Assembly, the president is throwing a fancy party for his new regime. He dramatically orders everyone to stand up. Then he starts yapping, the usual politician garbage, grand promises, shiny constitutions, and blabbering about a super peaceful wonderland where everyone is safe. But outside, sweating soldiers guard the gates while party crashers lurk above. Bak Seyun is perched like a gargoyle with her henchmen. She aggressively warns the guy not to even think about ruining the total chaos Taikai Seyoung is planning. Interrupting means waking the beast. This revenge buffet is his alone. The lackey asks if the mad dog is actually coming here. She smirks. Soo-jung is on the top 8 hit list. She is highly priority prey. Her minion says to play safe, but Chune casually suggests they just murder everyone in the building. He stares like she lost her marbles. They cannot just wipe the server. She retorts that her heart hurts enough, and anyone who ignored her tragic backstory is totally a villain anyway, so she is super down to flush them all away. In her twisted mind, these cops and soldiers are not heroes. They are just glorified mall cops kissing the boots of the rich and famous. If they block her path, they become target practice. Even her own evil minion is totally sweating over her unhinged villain smirk. She claims she is joining Tyson's murder spree for world peace. Sure, lady. Meanwhile, our bloodthirsty hero sprints to the venue. The second he hits the pavement, absolute panic hits. Everyone knows the Reaper arrived. NPCs scatter like roaches. A random guy drops his phone, acting as a speaker for the president's loud speech about protecting the public. Total irony. Then the hypocrite boss calls his precious daughter, warning that she must pack for a permanent vacation abroad. Running away is her only survival strategy. He admits she is the only VIP with a target on her back. Cut to the airport. She wears a stealthy cap with Honey. Sweating buckets, she asks if her buddy is tagging along for this escape. Honey nods, accepting the human shield role. She strictly reminds the rich kid about the survival rules. No doom scrolling, zero late-night texting, and to dodge a bullet, all her homework is bunker-bound. No making friends, no gossiping. Seyoung pouts, wondering if this basically means she just needs a one-year vacation in America. The agent nods. Yep, forced study abroad is her only way out. But let us be real, unless our overpowered maniac gets caught, a year changes nothing. The only absolute miracle would be the main character turning himself in. As if, meanwhile, in a dark and extremely tense secret room, the big bosses are sweating bullets. They finally admit the truth. Nobody can stop this walking disaster. One guy asks if they have some secret anti-monster cheat code. Can we nerf him somehow? We do not know the exact sketchy details, but it sounds like a weird biological weapon. The old man shakes his head. That gimmick only works a single time, and the timing is completely wrong. You cannot use normal logic on this guy. He is an absolute glitch in the Matrix. One wrong move and it is game over for everyone. He frantically dials Agent Aeon, the poor soul currently stuck on escort duty. How much time until that plane is in the sky? The agent quickly replies, 20 minutes. So, the old man screams at him to hustle. The Grim Reaper is already here. If things go south, hit plan B. Right now, saving the Golden Girl is their only mission. The agent gulps and confirms. Now they are playing the most terrifying waiting game ever. The old man volunteers to distract our mad lad. His buddy looks at him like he is totally nuts. Are you suicidal? But the geezer claims it is completely safe. Just a friendly chat. He is delusional enough to think the monster will not slice him in half. At the airport, some serious dudes block the agent and the runaway princess checking IDs. They bark at them to run for their lives. The overpowered maniac has already breached the gates. Panic mode activated. The predator is hunting, but wait, the old man steps up to block him. The geezer acts all dramatic. Such a tragic reunion. But hey, do me a solid, please do not kill our girl today. He pulls the whole, do it for the country speech. It is the only way to honor his dead lover's grand utopian vision. For that dream, the princess needs to live and play politics with the top dogs. She is the ultimate chess piece to tear down the corrupt system. Basically, they just want to use the girl as a shiny political shield. In short, they need her alive. He even name-drops the dead girlfriend, but our hero just sneers. Do you seriously think your bald head can stop me? The old man tries one last guilt trip. Your girl will be so terribly disappointed in you. She wants world peace, not murder. But our mad lad literally gives 0 stars to their garbage political deals. He is here for blood. Using his dead lover as an excuse, that is a guaranteed one-way ticket to the afterlife. One more word, and you are sliced sushi. He breezes past the trembling fossil without even breaking a sweat. He locks onto his target. The old man clutches his chest, praying for his life. Meanwhile, the runaway is practically sprinting with her squad. The agent is hyperventilating. Is this secret path actually safe? She knows that once they are airborne, that monster could still jump and swat them. The guard smirks confidently. Relax, princess. There is 0 chance he finds this secret back door. Famous last words, buddy. Outside, the military fodder gets a pep talk on fighting a literal god. Shoot on sight. Kill command approved. Everyone is gripping their guns, sweating bullets. Oh wait, the boss is already behind a guy. Excuse me, coming through. The poor soldier literally hits the deck in sheer terror, and our guy just casually strolls past. But then, the foot soldier makes a huge mistake. He shoots the main character, instant game over. The old man gets a frantic radio call. He is on the runway, right where the target is. He screams that this guy literally has radar hacks, ordering all units to immediately abort the mission. Run for your lives. Resistance is absolutely useless, but the other boss smiles. Time is up. The bird is ready to fly. Safety at last, or so they foolishly thought. The mad dog dashes through the army like they are invisible, locking eyes with his prey. Gotcha. He unleashes a battle cry that shakes the tarmac. But plot twist, she is already on the moving plane. Our guy does the quick math. Jumping will definitely not cut it. So he literally harpoons the moving jet with his sword. The massive aircraft gets violently yanked back down. Flight cancelled. A whole army surrounds him now. Does he care? Nope. Even a massive Michael Bay explosion happens, but it changes 0. The targets scramble in pure panic. They look back and boom. He is literally surfing the jet, pulling his blade out like King Arthur. They run like their pants are on fire, but teleportation hack. He steps up. This is the final boss room. His terrifying grin screams game over and her health bar is about to hit 0 permanently. The bad ending is locked in. He casually drops her name while 100 heavily armed police officers point useless guns at him, intimidated. He is yawning. The girl, meanwhile, is just a terrified puddle of tears. Pure terror gripped her soul. She screamed his name, crying a river of pathetic apologies for her sins. She confessed it was all her twisted fault. She sobbed that torturing him and Seyoung was totally inhuman, a bad memory she deeply regretted. Groveling, she begged for just one more chance to fix this mess, desperately bargaining for her life. Then plot twist, our overpowered hero actually said she could walk away if she wanted to live. Her teary eyes lit up with absolute joy, but oops, he was not talking to her. He was staring right at her bodyguard. He gave the agent a simple choice: stay out of his bloody path, and she survives. He had zero interest in ending her. She was free to run, but raising a weapon meant instant death. The agent spotted her golden ticket out of this horror show and bolted without a second thought. As she sprinted for the exit, Seyoung completely lost her mind, shrieking at her hired muscle not to ditch her. Flopping around on the bloody floor, the girl cried for a hero, screaming at the useless soldiers nearby to do their jobs. When that failed, she absolutely snapped, pulling the ultimate spoiled brat card. She screamed she was the president's daughter, throwing a massive tantrum about why nobody was saving her VIP skin. Too bad our guy had already raised his blade entirely, done with her whining. With one beautifully brutal strike, he chopped the Nepo baby perfectly in half. The absolute smirk of satisfaction on his face was cinematic. He had finally served cold revenge to her, crossing another traitor off his hit list. Looking up, he silently whispered to his parents, "Just one final boss left to kill." And that was a wrap on Seyoung. Meanwhile, tucked away in a stuffy Japanese government office, a bunch of suits were sweating over how to handle Taekyung. One panicked official ordered a massive security boost for anyone remotely linked to our hero across the globe. Poking the angry god of death was a terrible idea. Yet these arrogant politicians still delusionally thought they could leash him furiously, debating the secret origin of his insane stats. It was painfully obvious by now that his power level completely shattered basic human limits. Instead of digging their own graves, they hatched a ridiculously greedy plan to capture his aura and reverse engineer it. They figured it could unlock a brand new era. In their greedy eyes, executing him was a waste of prime lab rat material, hoping to totally rewrite the global hierarchy depending on who snatched the prize first. One bald suit correctly pointed out that not even a modern military could leave a scratch on our invincible main character. They fantasized that if they could magically train thousands of troops to awaken that exact same godly power, world domination would be a total joke. But seriously, what happens when those soldiers rebel? Hard cut to the United States, where the genius scientist was spilling tea with the blonde agent. He leaked the roster of the elite strike force, just deployed by China, led by Seyoung Chiao. He nervously watched the entire globe scrambling like ants to cage the protagonist. He nervously laughed, saying it was a countdown until Takasan flipped the entire world upside down. The blonde dude casually dropped that China likely had 3,000 sneaky agents camping on their turf, and our boy was going totally rogue. This blatantly pissed the scientist off. If they were lurking around, they were absolute rats trying to steal their homework. The blonde guy smoothly added that they had also caught Japan making shady plays in the shadows. It was hilariously clear the entire planet was having a collective panic attack over the sheer chaos unfolding. He challenged the scientist, asking if they should just launch a preemptive strike, hoping that if they ambushed Taksan Young, they could steal his broken cheat skills first. But the scientist just laughed it off calmly, stating that epic failure was guaranteed. It simply would not work. The blonde guy blinked, asking why he was so stubbornly sure given the enemy had infinite cash, legendary military gear, and zero hesitation to start World War III if it meant throwing a collar on the protagonist and draining his abilities. The scientist smirked, offering a deadly bet because he knew absolutely no one was putting a leash on their monster. If he actually snapped, it was game over for humanity. Elite squads would just be cannon fodder. The blonde agent nervously wondered if they could just throw mountains of cash and luxury at him. The scientist sighed, noting that if our boy actually cared about bling, he would already be a billionaire king. That was definitely not his vibe. The blonde agent then guessed China might bribe him with a private island and absolute safety for his precious bloodline. The scientist nodded, admitting that might actually work, since his entire brutal rampage was fueled by a desperate need to avenge his fallen parents and shield his aunt. He declared they needed to call in the heavy cavalry and secure total backing from the United States military. The blonde dude gasped, asking if he seriously wanted to deploy the legendary Airborne Division 82 just to babysit a civilian. For the record, that elite squad was practically sacred, deployed exclusively for presidents and top-tier assets. Treating them like glorified bodyguards for the protagonist's aunt was an absolute joke. But the scientist grinned, revealing his genius masterclass of a plan. They desperately needed the walking nuke to owe them one. By wrapping his aunt in an impenetrable shield, they might barely survive his future wrath. It was the ultimate insurance policy. Meanwhile, getting absolutely soaked in the dramatic rain, Suian's dad looked like a total wreck. The psychotic gleam in his eyes screamed pure madness, swearing a terribly dark blood oath. He was going to multiply his suffering by 1,000 and feed it to every single idiot who dragged his family into this hellhole. He would carve out his revenge for his son, making sure their screams echoed forever. Surprisingly, even the top dog president had stabbed him in the back, and spoiler alert, not even the commander-in-chief was surviving his upcoming villain arc. After everything that it was primetime television drama, the grieving parents hit the news channels for a mega interview. They stared down the cameras to warn Seyoung, since their kids met super terrifying ends. Obviously, they dragged the government for being totally useless and unable to protect anyone. Oh, the irony. Now these officials felt exactly how our main character felt back when tragedy struck his own parents. Welcome to the Helpless Club VIP members. But wait, the plot thickens as the general public grab the mic, because during this massive rampage, a bunch of random bystanders accidentally caught the ultimate stray. Their families were absolutely wrecked. Cue the media doing a total 180 on Taekong, ripping his reputation to absolute shreds. Public opinion went toxic. The fan club evaporated overnight, and social media completely canceled him. The trending hashtag, "Stop this maniac, sad backstory or not bro," crossed way too many lines. The whole nation turned on our overpowered main character, upgrading him to an Avengers-level threat to society. Seyoung was officially public enemy number 1. Meanwhile, the president was furiously doom-scrolling a video in total denial about his daughter biting the dust. The guy looked like a shattered glass window slumped on the floor with zero will to live. His brain was running purely on a villainous revenge loop, wanting Taekong to pay the ultimate price. Suddenly, the dramatic door creak. Enter Director Park, the big boss of the intelligence agency. One look at the president's pathetic state, and Park knew the guy was mentally checked out. The president tried to play it cool, but Park skipped the small talk. Enter a wild new character. We get a legendary geezer stepping up as the new tactical advisor. He casually flexes his name. Yang Yayan has entered the chat. Park hypes him up as a mythical former drill sergeant. Honestly, this grandpa literally carried the country on his back before chilling in retirement. Long story short, Grandpa is a massive big deal. The president begs for a cheat code to stop Taekong. The old man smirks. Oh, it is totally doable. The president gasps in shock, practically throwing his black card at him to buy a solution. But Grandpa drops a plot twist. First, they must grab Young Da-hun, the final survivor of the infamous 8. The president acts confused, but dude, it is obvious. He is the perfect bait to lure our overpowered psycho. Meanwhile, Taekong was basically playing Grand Theft Auto, bulldozing the entire city. The military got the memo and ran for the hills. Taekong was super confused. Like, I am right here, why are you guys away from keyboard? But the troops just stood there, sweating bullets. Suddenly, a walking mountain blocks his path, trash-talking his powers. Bro was a former world heavyweight champ built like an absolute tank. He actually challenged our demon to a clean one-on-one. One gentle tap later, the champ was launched through a skyscraper. Rest in peace to that guy's ego. Cue the dramatic chopper sounds. Above the wreckage, our guy spots Young Da-hun, catching a ride. The rat was bailing. Taekong hit peak rage and bounced toward the sky like a frog, but quickly did the math and realized he lacked the wingspan. So he parkoured to the highest roof. Staring at his mental hit list of the 8, he vowed to hunt Yang down and serve up a violent finale. Cutting back to Ziyun and her nervous bodyguard. She just watched the brutal stream of Sujung getting wrecked. Her reaction, darn, I wanted that kill. The bodyguard instantly started sweating buckets. Then, his earpiece buzzed. The agency barked orders to ditch the main squad to spy on Seyoung and pull everyone else back to base. He panicked, questioning if retreating was a genius move or a death wish, since the boss was nearby. Pulling the troops totally ruined their initial strat. But command screamed to evacuate instantly. Why? Because global spies were swarming like angry bees. Ziyun accidentally became the server's most wanted VIP, thanks to rumors she held the leash to our rampaging main character. He decides to drop some meat shields behind escort Ziyun and sprint away at supersonic speeds. He hypes her up as the golden goose they must defend at all costs. She is totally the secret weapon to nerf our hero later. He basically swears she is more valuable than his own kidney. Every breath she takes goes into a report, and solo trips are strictly banned. He promises he got the memo, and Ziyun realizes she overheard the tea. She side-eyes him, asking if she is getting dragged home too. He plays the "do not shoot the messenger" card. Meanwhile, vibing in the escape chopper, Young Da-hun, the president and the legendary geezer touch down. The president looks around totally clueless. Why drop in the middle of nowhere? Just some boring trees, but the old man points a dramatic finger and smirks. They plunge deep underground, entering an absurdly massive hidden tunnel. Hopping into a heavily armored car, they speed toward a super-secret subterranean base. Our totally clueless president keeps asking what this villain-esque lair actually is, but the mysterious old geezer just smirks, claiming they are almost at their destination and will drop the lore bomb soon. The ride finally stops in front of a ridiculously gigantic metal gate. making the president realize the true scale of this hidden fortress. His jaw hits the floor. As the nation's leader, he had zero clue this massive underground sci-fi bunker even existed. Once inside, the old man casually drops the master plan. This is the hunting ground for Subject 101. Annoyance veins pop on the president's forehead as he demands to know what the actual strategy is, sick of being left in the dark. Squinting at the basic concrete walls, he seriously doubts this flimsy setup can hold anything, guessing the superhuman could smash this entire bunker like wet cardboard. But the veteran coolly interrupts his panic, revealing they have a highly specialized trap specifically designed to completely neutralize our overpowered main character. The president still looks like a confused puppy, so the old man hits him with a plot twist. This exact capture method has actually worked before. Desperate for answers, the president begs for the secret recipe. The old man states that a superhuman monster with the exact same god-tier strength, insane speed, and sharp senses as Subject 101 used to walk the earth. The politician stares blankly, wondering if the old guy skipped his meds before the veteran reveals this crazy phenomenon went down roughly 30 years ago. The president scoffs, calling total garbage on that claim. He has never read a single classified file about this. He aggressively questions how a legendary superhuman could have roamed the streets without triggering a massive media circus, especially since their entire nation is currently losing its collective mind over the current overpowered teenager. How could the literal president not know about a 30-year-old disaster? The old man chuckles, explaining that before smartphones and social media, brainwashing the public and burying top-secret information was an absolute cakewalk. The politician argues that hiding a living weapon of mass destruction is still basically impossible. But the veteran drops a dark secret. The government literally tampered with the citizens' memories, completely rewriting the truth. In fact, he dramatically points out that even the president himself is actually familiar with this legendary man who possessed those godlike powers. The conversation spirals into the twilight zone until the old man finally reveals the legend's name, Marushi. Instantly, a hidden memory violently unlocks inside the president's brain. Stepping in, Director Park explains that Marushi was the ultimate shadow operative of his era, reigning as the absolute strongest agent inside the Korean intelligence agency. The president's eyes light up, realizing they had a loyal Superman on their payroll, and eagerly asks to meet him. But the old man instantly bursts his bubble, stating their legendary hero is permanently offline, buried 6 feet under. And here is the million-dollar mystery. Considering his absolute invincibility, what on earth could have possibly taken down such a raid boss? The president's brain short-circuits. If he was South Korea's ultimate weapon, who managed to delete him? And the terrifying realization hits. If the original Superman died, then their current teenage nightmare might actually have a fatal weakness. The old man corrects him, noting that the shadow faction responsible for sealing his fate definitely was not on the government payroll. It was actually Northern forces who went full try-hard mode, launching a massive Black Ops operation solely to capture the invincible Marushi. Why? Because this absolute madman once went on a solo side quest and casually wiped out 3 entire elite military squadrons with his bare hands. He was speedrunning enemy camps exactly like Seyoung is doing right now. And amazingly, back then, the guy was even younger than our current edgelord protagonist. The president gulps, realizing that if a beast like that was somehow captured and brutally executed, anyone can die. The veteran corrects him with a smirk. Yes, they caught him, but killing him was a total failure. He explains the enemy never actually planned to end the Superman's life. They just wanted to harvest his ridiculous cheat skills for themselves. Yet despite their best efforts, Marushi pulled off a legendary escape. Now the president is sweating bullets and demands to know what actually sent this unkillable martial god to the grave. The old man sighs, revealing he met his end while brawling with rebel military forces. The politician is dumbfounded. How does a literal one-man army get game-overed by standard grunts? Turns out, Marushi had infiltrated an enemy submarine in the East Sea. Amidst the chaotic underwater brawl, the sub sank to an impossibly crushing depth. Mother Nature won, and even a god-tier hunter could not swim back from the abyss. Meanwhile, cutting back to the urban chaos, Seyoung is still hunting for his scumbag targets, Young and Darin. Walking through the ruins, he stops dead in his tracks. He has unknowingly arrived at his old high school, the literal cursed origin point, where all his tragic backstory began. With a gravity-defying leap, he lands perfectly on the rooftop. Gazing down at the courtyard, dark memories violently resurface. He remembers marching straight to the principal's office, exposing the vicious bullying only for that useless adult to brush it off as a completely normal teenage phase, claiming everyone suffers through character development. That lazy bureaucrat had basically told him to get lost because he was too busy to care. Staring intensely at the very spot where his nightmare started, the traumatic flashbacks hit him like a freight train, echoing the cruel laughter he endured. The only angel in that hellhole who actually tried to pull him out of the darkness was Seyoung. Tae-sung vividly recalls the horrifying tragedy that befell the innocent girl, the total destruction of his own peaceful life, and the brutal fate his parents suffered. Declaring that his revenge tour is nearing its grand finale, an apocalyptic aura of pure rage erupts around him. Channeling his fury into one devastating punch, he literally splits the entire school building clean in half. Talk about dropping out. He completely obliterates the cursed ground where all his agonizing suffering originated. Meanwhile, back in the secret bunker, the president scurries over to meet Young Da-hoon's wealthy father. As they cross paths, the politician nervously thanks him for showing up. Sweating profusely, the president breaks the grim news. Every single one of the other bully kids has been deleted, and the only target left breathing is his precious son. Now they must pull out every dirty trick in the book to keep this little brat alive against a literal force of nature. Pacing the room, the president warns that even this ultimate bunker is no longer an absolute safe zone, because it turns out our overpowered main character somehow has their coordinates. The young scumbag Da-hoon looks like he just saw the Grim Reaper. The president solemnly announces that according to their tactical scanners, the unstoppable Tae-sung is already marching straight toward their front door. Since this trembling rich kid is now his final, the president's brilliant plan, moving our target to a top-secret bunker. The kid's clueless dad nervously questions if this extreme VIP treatment is necessary, thanking the boss for showing up. The president smooth talks, claiming he came personally because handing over your precious heir requires a VIP touch. Any random suit would have looked incredibly suspicious. The naive father bows in gratitude. But spoiler alert, the president is plotting some serious backstabbing. Inside the fancy ride, he ignores the kid completely. Uttering hollow comforts, his sinister grin totally screams, "You are 100% monster bait." Meanwhile, Tae-sung is on the prowl. A sleek black car screeches to a halt nearby. Back at the villain's evil lair, young Da-hoon confusedly asks about their creepy destination. The president gloats that Tae-sung could never find this place. They will trap the beast and end him. Ironically, that mysterious car dropping by our hero literally hands him the VIP coordinates to Da-hoon's secret prison. A messenger begs him to stop turning innocent cops into minced meat. Tae-sung casually replies that this bloodbath is entirely their fault. They poked the bear first. Laser-focused, our protagonist marches out to serve some ice-cold revenge. Down in the bunker, Director Park practically throws a parade for the president's successful kidnapping. The boss brags about his Oscar-worthy acting skills, fooling the overly protective father into handing over the golden goose. Park eagerly asks about their little hostage. The president admits the kid is completely traumatized. Cut to the reinforced chamber. The brat is throwing a massive tantrum, desperately pounding on the heavy blast doors. A creepy old mastermind watches this pathetic display through the monitors. The president nervously sweats, wondering if this pathetic bait will actually summon their walking nightmare. The geezer chuckles darkly. As long as Da-hoon breathes in this room, Tae-sung will gladly march straight into hell. The president panics, worrying the trap is way too painfully obvious. But the old man smirks. It is not just a basic trap. Da-hoon's miserable presence serves a much darker purpose. The twisted reality. This poor kid is meant to be slaughtered. They actually want our hero to successfully execute his bloody vengeance. Only after tearing the boy apart will the hero drop his guard. Then they drop the real hammer. Suddenly a frantic ringtone shatters the tension. Speak of the devil. The Grim Reaper has arrived at the front gate. Showtime begins now. Inside his little glass cage, the hostage completely loses his mind, sobbing for mercy. Above ground, Tae-sung casually strolls up to the highly classified fortress. He practically tastes his impending revenge. Glancing sideways, he notices an absolute army of fully armed cops. Does he care? Not even slightly. He ignores the heavily armored meat shields and draws his trusty blade. With one epic swing, he casually detonates a hidden explosive strapped to a boulder. Realizing this law in his mind, he completely obliterates the secret entrance. The guards stand there, jaws touching the floor. With the front door blown wide open, he bypasses security entirely. Ripping the massive steel vault apart with bare hands, he steps inside. The kid freezes in pure terror. It is the monster himself. Trying to flee, a terrifying blade violently pierces the ceiling, blocking his escape. The ultimate game of deadly hide-and-seek is officially over. Everyone is going straight to the graveyard tonight. The ghosts of his past are demanding blood. Meanwhile, back on the surface, clueless commanders send in the bomb squad, triggering a massive, fiery explosion. Did it scratch our overpowered hero? Absolutely not. Tae-sung dusts off his shoulders, flashing a terrifying, unhinged smile. The climax of his violent rampage is here. Grabbing the pathetic boy like a rag doll, he launches him brutally against the concrete wall. The sickening crunch shatters the kid's bones. Whimpering on the ground, Da-hoon gets a heavy combat boot stomped straight through his leg. Stand up, the demon orders. But suddenly, strange vents hiss to life. Thick, mysterious gas floods the execution chamber. As the boy struggles, Seyoung delivers a devastating roundhouse kick. Flying across the room, the hero brutally chokeslams him into the reinforced glass. Wait, something is wrong. Our hero's vision violently spins. Suspended by his throat, the bloody kid bursts into manic, villainous laughter. You absolute fool. Some chemical cocktail is rapidly draining the monster's supernatural strength. Watching the monitor feed, the clueless president asks the creepy elder about the funky smoke. Is it some top-tier military-grade nerve agent? The old man scoffs. Conventional bioweapons are basically a mild breeze to our overpowered protagonist. His godlike immune system eats poison for breakfast. Sweating bullets, the suit demands to know what the heck they are pumping into that room then. The master strategist adjusts his glasses. It is a highly specialized botanical substance. Translation: high-grade weaponized marijuana. The president's brain short-circuits. How is getting him high supposed to stop a bloodthirsty killing machine? Dose was wild enough to scramble Seyoung's god-tier senses. It wouldn't kill him, sure, but with that much gas, the president was literally sweating over the national budget. The old man blew absurd cash on this, but hey, he claimed it might blur his vision. Good enough for government work. Meanwhile, our overpowered MC was busy sending Dawn to the Shadow Realm. One final earth-shattering punch, and the trash was taken out. Vengeance achieved. He softly whispered the names of his parents and Ziyun. Flashing a smile so creepy it belonged in a horror webtoon, he declared his revenge officially over. He had personally booked their tickets to the afterlife, but mid-smile, his brain did a flip. He realized the spicy air in the room was doing a number on him. Suddenly, the old grandpa yelled an order, and the floor beneath our protagonist just yeeted itself open. Down he goes. He grabbed for the wall, but some genius had coated it in baby oil. Zero friction, Seyoung took the world's longest slide down. Hitting rock bottom, he finally spotted the masterminds behind this clown show. The president, the old guy, and director Park were chilling there. Seyoung instantly started screaming the president's name. He smacked the floor hard, his godlike senses completely glitching out. He kept raging at the VIPs while the old geezer barked orders to keep the party going. From above, it rained down flashbangs, turning Seyoung's vision into a literal disco. The old man smugly thought the combo of sketchy drugs and blinding lights would scramble the MC's brain. And surprisingly, it totally worked. The sweating, president thought they could finally end him now. But the grandpa dropped a truth bomb. Even blind and dizzy, our MC was too insanely thick-skinned to die here. To erase Seyoung, they had to stick to the script. Director Park then chimed in, saying global powers were fighting like kids over a toy just to capture him. He suggested they snag a little DNA sample for science. The president instantly rejected it. Bro just wanted to wake up from this walking nightmare. The old guy reminded them of Korea's epic fail, when they tried to mess with that other dude who looked exactly like our MC. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Trying to steal DNA from Seyoung was a death wish. The dude had massive plot armor, and the same old trick wouldn't work twice. He also knew this toxic gas trick was a one-hit wonder. With his freakish stats, Seyoung's body would literally adapt to it like a software update. If he breaks out now, it's game over forever. He glared at Park, asking if he still wanted to play mad scientist. Park immediately zipped his lips and backpedaled. The crazy old man announced the final boss stage. Suddenly, from the ceiling, thick wet cement started raining down on our poor protagonist. The logic was simple. Bullets suck in water and cement is way chunkier. If they bury the MC in it, he'd be stuck like a fossil. Once the concrete hardened, even a human cheat code like him wouldn't be able to flex his way out of it. The president, practically shaking, asked how long before the MC would reboot and start breaking things again. The old man shrugged, admitting he had zero clue how long this rocky prison would hold. He bet even now Seyoung's ridiculous body was downloading a resistance patch. The president just stared, absolutely flabbergasted by how busted this guy was. But they had to pack it up before the beast completely woke up. Meanwhile, deep inside Seyoung's mind, a mysterious voice echoed. It totally sounded like the original owner of his sword nagging him to come back, claiming he wasn't high-leveled enough to face Arab yet. The MC was like, who the heck is Arab? But the voice kept yapping, ordering him not to die such an embarrassing death. Only pure, unadulterated rage could shatter mountains. A bizarre, trippy landscape unfolded before him as the voice kept spamming his brain. It promised that a true psycho with endless fighting spirit would unlock the sword's ultimate blessing. And boom, this was the exact moment Seyoung unlocked that VIP blessing, the crazy power-up he had craved since his sweaty rooftop training days. A totally devastated wasteland stretched out before him, and the mysterious dude promised that next time they met, he'd reveal a massive secret. But, spoiler alert, he completely left us hanging. Cutting back to the surface, clueless soldiers were playing King Arthur with Seyoung's massive sword in the ceiling. Nope, it didn't budge. Way too heavy for these NPCs. They scratched their heads, wondering how the MC swung that ridiculous metal slab one-handed, when a whole squad couldn't lift it. Suddenly, a grunt noticed something super sketchy. The blade was literally vibrating like a jet engine. He panicked, warning his buddy that the sword was acting up. Boom! A terrifying burst of aura exploded from the blade, hitting so hard it shook the entire forest like a magnitude 8 earthquake. Things were getting wild. And down in the cement tomb, his body nearly petrified. Nope, Seyoung snapped his eyes open. Relying on pure brute strength, he flexed and began shattering his concrete blanket. And busted loose. The geezer and the president finally realized they messed up. Our guy was literally punching through solid concrete. Meanwhile, his trusty sword stuck up above started glowing like a disco ball and ripped right through the roof. It zoomed straight to its master, leaving the guards totally clueless down below. The sweating president nervously asked Governor Yang if our hero was awake yet. The old coot confessed he didn't expect such a speedy recovery. But hey, stick to the plan. No matter how hard our main character struggled, he wasn't escaping. Cue the comedic timing. A giant earthquake rocked the facility. He panicked, wondering what the heck was happening. Boom! The magic sword crashed through the ceiling like a homing missile. It was practically alive. He screamed, asking why it was there. The geezer yelled it was time to skedaddle. They had to ditch this place. As the cowards booked it, the sword flew solo, diving straight toward our hero and obliterating the heavy concrete that kept him pinned. Poof dust. Freaking out, the villains scrambled into a getaway car, realizing they needed to get the heck out of Dodge fast. Speeding away, the old dude smugly announced his ultimate backup plan. He was totally going to bury our boy alive. They just needed to outrun the massive explosion. He radioed the base commander, declaring that Plan A was a total bust. The monster was breaking loose. The commander coolly replied that all explosive preparations were fully ready to blow. Just as their car miraculously blasted out of the escape tunnel, the panicking driver asked for directions. Park screamed to aim for the getaway chopper immediately. But as they frantically floored it toward the helipad boom, a huge explosion erupted, collapsing the whole base. The old man shrieked, telling the driver to step on it. Shooting out of the fiery tunnel like an angry hornet, the sword blitzed through the forest, slicing trees and slamming into their bumper. The car did a wild kickflip, kissed a tree, and left everyone dizzy. Honestly, the sword just casually flew back to our overpowered hero. Yep, he totally had the blessing from this magical weapon, treating it like a toy. The crash chucked the president into the dirt, and he immediately started throwing a massive tantrum at our hero. He demanded his daughter back, but our guy, stone, cold, he just stared into the whining president's soul. Remembering all the nonsense they pulled, he mentally asked his own parents if they would give a refund on this guy. Without skipping a beat, he flicked his wrist and impaled the bossy president with his flying blade. Game over, Mr. President. Meanwhile, Park was stubbornly alive in the wrecked car, shooting wildly at our hero. Spoiler alert, bullets bounce. With another flick, the sword zapped Park into the afterlife. He then noticed Sneaky Yang had pulled a vanishing act. Whatever the president was, the main course. Meanwhile, over at the fancy Blue House, big shots were whining about the delayed meeting. Everyone was gathered impatiently, tapping their watches when the secretary stumbled in. She dropped a massive truth bomb. The president just got canceled. The room went absolutely bananas. Politicians panicked like headless chickens, crying about how annoying a sudden vote would be. Suddenly, an older dude walked in through the back, telling the crybabies to chill. He was here, so zero need for drama. The secretary sighed in relief. This guy was the party's shadow boss, a dude who practically owned Congress for 8 straight terms. He was the secret puppet master, yanking the president's strings. And plot twist, he was also the dead president's dad. Say hello to Jung Young-hoo. He strutted forward, ordering the secretary to prep a press conference for later. Some nervous background character whispered, "Shouldn't the prime minister be the one stepping up?" Papa Jung instantly shut him down. He barked that his idiot son died playing solo hero. Then he threatened the room to stop acting goofy and follow his rules. The politicians instantly shut up and fell right in line like extras. Back at the base, a sniper was watching the main character's entire rampage. She muttered it was way crazier than the viral clips. Seeing this monster live was bonkers. Over the comms, clueless grunts yelled they were almost at the party, but she screamed for a U-turn. Going in was instant game over. One stubborn grunt wanted to play hero and pushed forward, but she yelled, he was clueless. That magic sword dancing in our hero's hands had a mind of its own. It was a deadly pet. The guy was hacking reality. Suddenly, enemy jeeps swarmed the zone, backed by a noisy chopper. Yep, the president was toast, and our boy promised to delete that corrupt bloodline, and he was keeping his word. Near the dying boss, he smirked, revealing he knew the real puppet master was. Dear old dad, thanks to some henchmen gossiping. Then, like a total madman, he leaped straight for the chopper and grabbed it. On the ground, soldiers shouted to hold fire. They might hit the boss. Inside the hijacked chopper, the poor pilot was sweating bullets. He asked his terrifying passenger for a destination, all while a literal magic sword cruised outside his window. Tishi deadpanned. The Blue House. Step on it. Valuing his life, the pilot yanked the controls without a single argument. Down below, panic erupted in the command center. A soldier screamed that the rogue bird was beelining straight for Seoul. Target. the president's front lawn. Mid-flight, the pilot practically begged to take a detour. The direct route was a guaranteed death trap. It was swarming with heavy security and anti-air systems. Sneaking past. Statistically impossible. Plus, the military had already issued a zero-hesitation kill order, shoot on sight. No warnings, no mercy. Flying into that airspace was basically ringing the doorbell of the Grim Reaper. Sure, this crazy overpowered passenger had tanked a missile before. But if the chopper blew up at this altitude, gravity usually wins. Even a water landing would feel like hitting solid concrete. And to make matters worse, every single trigger-happy soldier on base was waiting for them. The second they hit the water, a relentless storm of artillery would turn them into fish food. There wouldn't be time to blink. Tishi's reaction. A total shrug. He casually ordered the pilot to keep flying straight into the meat grinder. The pilot mentally wrote his will. Crossing that restricted line meant instant vaporization. Sure, the legendary Seyoung might walk it off, but normal human flesh and bones absolutely would not. As they breached the capital's airspace, all hell broke loose. The Defense Command got the memo, and a massive wall of lead immediately shredded the sky, aiming right for their windshield. The gunners didn't care one bit about friendly fire. They just held down the trigger. But then Tishi pulled the ultimate cheat code. His magical blade spun like a high-speed blender, effortlessly swatting away anti-air fire. The pilot's jaw practically hit the floorboards. With Tishi playing the role of the world's most terrifying navigation system, MII, the chopper pushed forward. Down below, the brass was losing their minds. Generals screamed at their monitors. How could an entire army fail to swat one single flimsy helicopter? The sheer incompetence was baffling. Meanwhile, the endless barrage was starting to get on Tishi's nerves. So he let his sword loose, instantly trashing the military setups around them. Glancing down, he noticed the city was looking a little worse for wear. But hey, collateral damage happens. He kept his eyes on the prize. Over at the Blue House, the crooked old man was busy shedding crocodile tears for his dead son. Right at the peak of his power, too. What a tragedy. He genuinely looked devastated. But the pity party was rudely interrupted. A panicked secretary burst through the double doors. The unkillable monster was at their doorstep, and it was time to run. The old man nodded grimly, packing his bags for a tactical retreat. Back in the sky, the military threw everything but the kitchen sink at them. But Tishi just swatted the missiles away like annoying mosquitoes. Even so, the beat-up chopper was running on hopes and prayers. It was time for Plan B. And Plan B was absolutely ridiculous. He scooped the screaming pilot into a bridal carry, leaped out of the failing chopper, and literally surfed his magic sword through the air. They zoomed across the skyline at breakneck speed. Seriously, the power scaling was completely broken now. The guy was just straight up flying. Riding his glowing hover sword, he closed the gap in seconds and dropped right onto the presidential lawn. The eagle had landed. Alarms blared across the nation. The final boss had breached the Blue House. A literal army of soldiers instantly surrounded him, aiming down their sights. They barked warnings, swearing he wouldn't take another step. Tishi just smirked. Whoever wants to meet their maker first, go ahead and pull the trigger. That was all the invitation they needed. Meanwhile, deep in the government bunker, politicians were sweating buckets over the catastrophic city damage. Their own military was blowing up the capital just to stop one guy. At this rate, their approval ratings were going to drop faster than the bombs. The city was a flaming mess of chaos. One official finally snapped, asking if they seriously planned to destroy their own country to save their own skin. The stubborn old man argued they had to fight back. But another minister slammed the table. This wasn't defense, it was absolute lunacy. They were literally ready to bomb their own headquarters while sitting inside it. And the funniest part, it probably wouldn't even leave a scratch on him. The room erupted into mutiny. The blind loyalty was fading fast. The head of political affairs nervously raised his hand with a wild idea. Maybe, just maybe, they should try using their words. Someone needed to go out there and negotiate, because bullets clearly weren't working. Another suit agreed, pointing out that spamming artillery fire like panicked gamers was only getting innocent citizens killed. They hadn't spared a single thought for the collateral damage. A heavy, awkward silence choked the room. The old man glared, demanding to hear this brilliant plan. "All right, genius," he scoffed, "let's hear your pitch." Meanwhile, the news networks were having an absolute field day. Breaking news, the one-man army is inside. Oddly enough, he was just standing there chilling. The sweaty news anchor announced a full-blown state of martial law across the entire capital zone. The Blue House was locked down tighter than a vault. But while Tishi stood completely still, the military's friendly fire was racking up a terrifying civilian toll. The media pinned the whole mess on him, blasting the story of his epic grand theft helicopter moment that started this entire circus. Far away from the explosions, A girl stared at the burning television screen. She softly whispered the overpowered monster's name. It was the sweet nurse from Chapter 1. The only person who saw him when he was weak. Suddenly, violently loud knocking rattled her front door. A gruff voice yelled out her name, Kim Bora. The mystery man demanded to know if she was the nurse from the university hospital. The plot thickens. She managed to squeak out a yes, asking exactly who was out there. He pounded the door like an absolute maniac. She barely cracked it open, keeping the safety chain locked securely. But this total creep practically jammed his nose into the tiny gap, claiming to be a mighty police officer. He aggressively asked if she seriously planned to keep him locked out. He aggressively demanded answers about an illegal resident hiding inside. Hearing that terrifying question, Bora Kim started sweating absolute bullets. Pure panic mode activated. She had been taking care of the protagonist for a while, and practically jumped back in pure horror before that fake cop even reached her front step. Guilt was already eating her completely alive. She blamed herself entirely, convinced she had totally failed at monitoring his strange condition. She felt absolutely terrible about his tragic situation. I should have bought him calming herbal tea or something, she internally panicked. But then the aggressive knocking totally snapped her out of her pity party. Cue the instant replay. We watched the exact same intense scene unfold again. He barked that he was the police, fiercely ordering her to open up immediately. Staring nervously through the crack, she saw a guy in full uniform demanding she drop the chain. But her survival instincts flared up. She completely refused to buy his cheap act. In a violently trembling voice, she flat out refused to open it. The guy instantly lost his temper, screaming like a giant toddler for her to unlock the door immediately. But right at that dramatic climax, wham, he and his goofy henchmen violently dropped to the floor like giant sacks of potatoes. Somebody had completely obliterated them off-screen. Slowly opening the door, she found an absolute badass standing there. It was Seyoung. She casually apologized for being a little late, like she had just missed the morning bus. Meanwhile, let us quickly jump back to the protagonist at the Blue House. Remember that poor police officer who totally passed out from pure stress? Well, his internal reboot finally finished. He slowly woke up, absolutely shocked that he was miraculously still alive. He figured he must have magically escaped the protagonist's wrath. For 3 glorious seconds, he desperately hoped this whole disaster was just a crazy nightmare. But when he casually turned his head, he saw the absolute monster standing right beside him. Instant mind-numbing panic. He realized this was literally the worst possible time to wake up. Why did I open my eyes? I should have stayed in dreamland forever, he mentally screamed. He frantically looked around. This was the freaking Blue House, and the main character was basically holding everyone hostage like an absolute mafia boss. The poor cop thought his brain was melting. This was pure insanity, and he had zero clue how he ended up here. Then the main character looked straight at him. Flashing a terrifyingly calm smile, he told the cop that since he was finally awake, it was time to do him a tiny little favor. Fast forward, and the guy was surprisingly freed from the Blue House. The main character had assigned him a highly specific mission. He marched straight to Air Force Command. To totally surrender, he loudly confessed to being the exact helicopter pilot who gave the legendary main character his exclusive getaway ride. The officers stared at him, utterly dumbfounded. "Are you seriously telling the truth?" one officer gasped. He aggressively nodded. He explained that, as a proud military captain, he had casually aided a massive national crisis. Naturally, the furious soldiers tackled him straight into the dirt. They pinned him down, screaming that he was going down for absolute undeniable treason. They promised military prosecutors would aggressively tear him apart before throwing him in a dark cell. Meanwhile, as they dragged him away, they aggressively tossed him into a heavily armored truck. But honestly, to this deeply traumatized guy, facing a terrifying military treason trial was about 100,000 times better than hanging out with the protagonist. He gleefully thought his chances of surviving this were looking way up, until suddenly, crash. The military truck dramatically backflipped into the air, launching him out like a human cannonball. But guess who caught him mid-air? The protagonist. There is literally no escaping this overpowered freak. The panicked soldiers instantly surrounded them, screaming the order to open fire. The main character casually threw the poor captain straight back to the ground. With one massive leap, he vanished into the sky again. The guy was completely confused. Resigned to his bizarre fate, he slowly trudged back to the military command. Again. The officer stared in sheer disbelief. "How are you back? And why run away?" Turns out the protagonist basically invaded a top-secret command base just to use this poor guy as a human post-it note. The officer furiously asked if he was, seriously treating high treason like a fun little hobby. But the traumatized soldier just delivered his message. The boss had sent him back. as vital leverage for future negotiations. And the golden rule? If anyone laid a single finger on Han Ji-hoon, there would be absolute hell to pay. And surprise, that heavily protected man was none other than him. So the official order became hilariously clear. Everyone was absolutely forbidden from even breathing near this lucky soldier. Meanwhile, outside the base, the protagonist watched the absolute chaos unfold, flashing a mastermind grin as his epic plan clicked into perfect place. Cutting back to the Blue House chaos, Senior Secretary of Political Affairs Min Ryung-tae had finally arrived on the scene. He confidently rolled up with the government crew. The trembling soldier escorting the main character met them at the entrance, guiding the suits straight into the lion's den. The old politician smiled brightly. "It is an absolute pleasure to meet you." The protagonist was just sitting there, looking chillingly, completely relaxed. The soldier's brain completely short-circuited. Why on earth was this fancy politician treating the country's most wanted terrorist like a beloved celebrity? The official cheerfully suggested they do proper introductions first, proudly flexing his senior secretary title for everyone to hear. But before he could finish bragging, the main character totally shut him down. "I only have two tiny demands. First, literally everyone in Seoul packs up and leaves. Zero exceptions. Second, summon every single head of the national departments right here to the Blue House." The politician blinked, completely flabbergasted by the sheer audacity. The president is totally dead. So do you want us to drag his elderly father out here too?" The main character completely ignored the sass. "You have exactly until midnight tomorrow to finish both tasks, or else things get unimaginably spicy." Halfway back in their getaway car, the terrified officials completely lost their minds. Mobilizing the military is tough, but evacuating 10 million people. This is pure, unfiltered insanity. Evacuating Seoul in 18 hours. Hilarious. He called the main character a lunatic, saying this mission was a total joke. The nervous soldier asked, "Why the boss wanted Seoul completely empty?" Taeyong smirked, declaring the city would become a massive boss arena. He had zero interest in racking up casualties just because he wanted a brawl. Back at HQ, the suits sweat bullets. One guy demanded the juicy details on the crazy demands the overpowered guy made. Hearing the ultimatum, the room collectively lost its mind. Pure, unadulterated madness. 0% possible. The old geezer sat like a statue. Panicking, one suit screamed that they needed to pack up the government and flee to another city instantly. But a pencil pusher missed the point completely, arguing that crushing our heroes is a piece of cake. The real nightmare, kicking out every Seoul citizen in 18 hours. One genius suggested they just ghost the demand, but a smarter guy countered, saying they must pretend to care, or else they would make the overpowered monster even more insanely angry. He knew the math was utterly brutal. 18 million citizens. Another suit chimed in, hyperventilating over the massive cost of a forced evacuation. On this scale, it would cost over 2 million. Plunging Seoul into a complete clown show of chaos. Who takes the blame? Who deals with the massive fallout? The old geezer stayed totally muted. He secretly figured out that if the hero wanted the bad guys gathered, it was to wipe them out at once. Meanwhile, let us jump back to Kim Bora, the sweet nurse, who patched up our guy at the start. Chaeyeon knocked on her door, clapping like a proud mom, because she realized the creeps outside were not cops. Still, Chaeyeon teased her for being slow. Poor Bora was totally clueless. She had no clue who this crazy chick was. Chaeyeon claimed the bestie title, then snapped the door chain like a twig. She confirmed. The goons wanted to kidnap her, and surprised they belonged to Aegis Security. Yep, Aegis, that super evil organization, run by the blonde kid's daddy. Totally not the police. Surprisingly, Kim Bora was totally up to speed on this shady group, saving Chaeyeon a boring monologue. The nurse knew the drill and was ready. Chaeyeon flashed a smile, saying they were both stressing over Taeyong, and asked if Bora wanted to tag along. Did I mention she was pointing a loaded gun at her face? Yeah, not exactly a friendly suggestion. Bora wisely chose to follow the crazy lady. But peeking outside, she spotted a swarm of Aegis goons. Chaeyeon gave her the ultimate pep talk, under zero circumstances get caught. Because if they caught her, they would kill her. Survival rule number 1. Then out of nowhere, Chaeyeon casually whipped out a literal stick of TNT. She tossed it down like a frisbee, blowing up the Aegis trash creeping inside. Poor Kim Bora was not ready for an action movie and started freaking out. Chaeyeon rolled her eyes, basically saying, they had zero time for tears. Feel bad for the goons. Join them in the afterlife. Flash forward to St. Michael Monastery, where shady dudes were hanging out. Plot twist. They were Chinese secret agents spying on Korea. They were sweating over other servers crashing the party, like the German and Japanese guilds. Max alertness was required, the literal second. Those rival factions spawned, they had to strike. But while playing Peeping Tom, a random dude casually strolled out, radiating absolute final boss energy. Boom. In half a second, this absolute unit deleted the entire Chinese spy squad. Looks like we have another hacked account, just like our boy Tae Ki. Cut to the Capital Defense Command, where the suits had a total meltdown, losing their minds over that exact wipeout, crying over the Han River defenses getting trashed, and their troops getting clapped citywide. The geezer angrily demanded to know if they prepared properly. The lackeys nervously swore they were ready for any raid. Honestly, they were totally clueless about the culprit, seeing as our boy was chilling at the Blue House. Their big brain theory, sneaky rival guilds from other servers, had infiltrated the map. Meanwhile, at the Blue House, our hostage dude was extremely confused. Why act like NPCs? He had not seen a single panic warning or evacuation order. With midnight approaching, his brain finally realized he was hostage bait. Surprisingly, he felt bizarrely chill. I mean, nobody was tying him to a chair, right? But deep down, he knew his VIP status was a total illusion. The overpowered maniac was right next to him. Wherever he hid, he'd get speedrun out of nowhere. The boss casually declared a road trip. The poor hostage was confused, but soon found himself acting as chauffeur, ditching the place in a truck. The villain network instantly got the update, while our terrified driver violently regretted his life. He had zero clue where to go, and asking the monster seemed like a terrible idea. The boss just told him to hit the gas, and he violently obeyed. He was sweating buckets over this scary passenger. But looking out the window, he saw normal folks, just living their clueless lives. Kids were literally playing outside. Did the government just ghost the server? Or if the emergency alarms just took a nap? Zero orders were issued, even though this was supposed to be a massive evacuation. Crickets. He guessed that since our overpowered main character literally claimed the Blue House, nobody had the luxury of free will anymore. Our boy was basically playing dictator with the entire nation, so nodding and agreeing was their only survival tactic. Meanwhile, a very brave helicopter spotted their little road trip and started tailing them. The main character was supposedly heading to the National Assembly. The troops were losing their minds, wondering what kind of chaos he planned to unleash there. The place was completely empty, but plot twist, intel just dropped that Taishik had pulled a U-turn. The assembly was safe. The camera cuts to the broadcasting station where breaking news is rolling in. The clueless anchors were still confidently reporting his trip to the assembly. Right as they cue the graphics, the anchor declares Taishik is marching straight for the politicians. Suddenly, crash. The studio walls explode, and stepping out from the dust like an absolute final boss is Taishik. He literally busted straight through the wall like a wrecking ball. His loyal soldier barks at the terrified crew to keep those cameras rolling. Put this menace on air, or things are going to get very messy very fast. Literally 2 seconds later, our main character's face is hijacked onto every giant billboard and TV across Seoul. He casually drops the bomb that the president is dead by his own hand. Cue the absolute citywide meltdown. The citizens are terrified. He then spills the tea, revealing he warned the higher-ups to evacuate all of Seoul by midnight and hand over their top boss, but they left him on red. Now that he knows exactly who is pulling the strings, he promises a citywide beatdown because the government thought he was bluffing. The studio is dead silent. Even his hostage buddy soldier is sweating bullets at this unhinged script. Taishik openly admits that, sure, he cannot solo the entire capital, but if he catches any troops loitering around after curfew, he is wiping them off the server. Back at the villain committee, the old geezers are panicking. Is this absolute madman really declaring war on the whole military? One guy sighs, admitting the main character holds all the cards. But the stubborn old boss insists they call his bluff. No evacuation, no surrendering. If they look weak now, the public will riot. The committee thinks he is insane for risking it, but the boomer bets that Taishik is too soft to slaughter innocent civilians. And hey, if he does go on a murder spree, the public relations backlash would be terrible. All 10 million residents of Seoul would cancel him. Another executive sweats, realizing the old man is basically using the entire city as a meat shield. On TV, Taishik drops his second spicy demand. All Seoul police must drop their weapons and go home. Basically, the purge is starting in Seoul. Anyone playing hero gets an instant game over. And just to sprinkle some extra panic on top, no civilian safety is guaranteed. Proceed at your own risk. Old man Young is watching this stream foaming at the mouth in his fancy office. Meanwhile at the hospital, Mr. Young, the punching bag from earlier, is nursing his bruised ego. Standing over him is Seyoung, our mysterious edgy boy in the yellow hoodie. He asks how the beating went down. Mr. Young plays it cool, but Seyoung is practically vibrating with rage. He demands to know who turned his brother into a pretzel, vowing absolutely brutal revenge. And just like that, another crazy boss enters the hunt for Tae-shik. Back with angry Grandpa Yang, he demands a sit-rep. His lackey nervously explains that our unhinged main character captured the Blue House yesterday, sending all the fancy politicians running for their lives. The old man's jaw drops. Tae-shik is literally a loose cannon. He then asks about Muwol, only to hear the guy is awake. They pumped him full of super serum, and he is healing like a troll. The old man asks if they located hoodie boy Seyoung. The lackey sweats, saying he left them on read and is totally ghosting the organization. Yep, the very same Seyoung, currently throwing a tantrum at the hospital, planning his revenge arc. To make matters worse, the aide admits 3 ultra-rare serum samples just magically vanished from the top-secret lab. The security cameras caught Seyoung snatching them in 4K resolution. The old man clutches his heart, realizing a massive headache is incoming. Back with our favorite menace, his hostage soldier finally snaps, asking why he is dragging helpless civilians into his messy revenge plot. The soldier admits that back at the first building, he thought the main character was a cool anti-hero, but threatening grandmas and baristas. Not cool, bro. Was this entire flex just a petty grudge against the government? The math is not mathing. If he wanted the big bosses dead, he could have just punched them himself. The soldier starts wondering if Tae-shik is just throwing the deadliest temper tantrum on everybody. They step into the elevator, the tension thick enough to cut with a sword, and he nervously asks if they are heading back to the Blue House. Our main character says, nope. First stop, a sweet helicopter ride. The poor soldier is utterly baffled. He presses the button and the elevator ascends. But wait, just before the doors shut, a total creep slides right in. It is Hwa. The panicking soldier frantically signals the guy to back off. I mean, he is riding with Taesung, Korea's most wanted monster. Maybe even the world's. He practically begs the weirdo to run, wondering why he is just standing there. But the stranger completely ignores the warning. Is this guy blind? The apex predator is right beside him. Shockingly, our hero does not care either. The soldier sweats bullets, wondering why this lunatic chose this exact elevator. Then ding, epiphany strikes. The stranger is clutching a sketchy device in his hand. One terrified glance at the intruder's face, and the poor soldier spots grotesque veins popping out everywhere. Yep, definitely not a normal human. Taesung senses his killer intent. But before he can even yawn, the freak lands a brutal strike to his chest, followed by a knee to the chin. 2 blazing fast hits, he could not even blink. The soldier's brain completely short-circuits. Did this absolute madman just score a hit against the literally undefeated Taesung? The attacker's freaky face is obvious proof he is no ordinary dude. But surprise, surprise, our overpowered hero is totally fine. That tickled. Taesung throws a casual punch, but the freak instantly dodges and smacks his face with a weapon. Wow, finally, an opponent who does not get one-shotted immediately. The traumatized soldier is having an existential crisis about who this guy is. Meanwhile, the poor elevator simply gives up on life and completely snaps. Their clash is too epic. The soldier is literally crying in the corner. Caught in this boss battle, he has 0 chance of living. Crash. The elevator hits rock bottom, but thankfully, our hero casually saves his hostage. Outside, the crazy brawl continues. The assassin is absurdly fast, instantly closing the gap. The soldier is just shocked he is still breathing. He realizes he is watching a clash of literal monsters. These freaks are completely superhuman. What on earth is that lunatic made of? The guy moves like lightning, but Taesung looks utterly bored. Actually, it is exactly the opposite. Mid-charge, our hero casually catches him by the throat. He leans in, telling the freak to listen closely. He has a very tight schedule today, so this petty warm-up is over. The assassin suddenly realizes the giant sword is missing. He glances back, and bam, a devastating blow launches him straight into the concrete. A normal human would be a literal pancake right now. Brushing off the dust, our duo casually strolls away. But wait, cutting back to the assassin, this roach is still standing. His body is a total cheat code. He whips out a sketchy syringe and jams it right into his neck. Yikes. Leaving that mystery for later, let us return to our iconic duo. They reach the roof only to find the pesky news crew stole their ride. Our hero calmly orders the soldier to just summon a helicopter. The soldier's jaw drops. Bro, do I look like a wizard? Pointing at the sky, Taesung smugly notes a military chopper circling them like a buzzard. He orders his new sidekick to hail a cab. Up in that exact chopper, the crew spots him instantly. Oh hey, it is that unlucky hostage, acting as the monster's personal tour guide. Through their fancy binoculars, they see him frantically waving his arms. Wait, is this poor guy actually signaling for them to land? The pilots burst into laughter. That is literal suicide. Why on earth would we land? But suddenly, a massive sword taps politely against their mid-air windshield. Well, that is a very convincing argument. Sweating buckets, they peacefully surrender their flying fortress and land. They politely hand the keys over to our hero and his crying buddy. When asked for the destination, Taesung demands the nearest bridge. The soldier is utterly confused by this GPS route, sweating over the rush hour traffic. Why not just go punch the army directly, like a normal overpowered boss? Well, the nearest target is Mapo Bridge. Meanwhile, at the useless villain headquarters, the top brass just got the memo about the grand helicopter theft. Hearing he hijacked a chopper and dipped, the entire boardroom goes completely dead silent. They gulp, asking what else he ruined. Ding, a fresh nightmare arrives. The pale look on the intern's face screams absolute disaster. The old boss demands answers. Trembling like a leaf, she drops the bomb. Mapo Bridge. Yeah, it is completely obliterated. Jaws hit the floor. That giant iconic bridge is just gone. Even our poor soldier passenger is losing his mind that it vanished in one hit. With Mapo crossed off the list, our hero casually orders a flight to the next bridge. The breaking news is already screaming Seyoung's name as the ultimate chaos agent. He escaped and deleted the city's main river crossing from the map. But wait, right in the middle of that broadcast, another red alert drops. 2 more iconic bridges just bit the dust, then beep, 2 more vanish. The news anchors are sweating as live cameras catch him speedrunning bridge destruction like it is a video game quest. This absolute madman is literally own country without blinking an eye. Fleeing, yeah right, he blocked every exit. The bridges out were totally destroyed, sealing Seoul tight like a giant escape room. No way out. Citizens were left scratching their heads, wondering why our guy was playing City Breaker. Panic hit the streets. Grown adults cried for their mommies. Meanwhile, our overpowered main character just kept smashing things to dust. His grand master plan finally clicked to paralyze Seoul's traffic and lock the entire capital in the ultimate traffic jam. At home, one family watched the apocalypse on live television. The dad was totally baffled, sweating over the crazy tax hike to rebuild those bridges. His wife panicked, screaming they had to ditch Seoul immediately. It was a literal war zone. But their clueless teenage daughter just rolled her eyes, whining that she was supposed to hang out with besties today like, ugh, so annoying. Suddenly, breaking news flashed. A bunch of hardcore inmates just busted out of southern Seoul's maximum security prison. The emergency lines blew up, but spoiler alert, the cops were totally missing in action. The government literally just said, stay inside and lock your doors, good luck. The dad kept losing his mind over how society crumbled in 5 seconds flat. But Seoul was already a giant free-for-all. Escaped convicts were treating the streets like a playground, and the military was ghosting everyone. Crime spiked to level 99 across Seoul. Robberies and street brawls became the new normal. Crazed mobs were playing Smash Bros in real life. It was obvious our main character's rampage made law enforcement pack up and quit. The dad suddenly realized his kids were still stuck at school, and full-blown panic mode activated. He yelled to pack their bags right now. They had to run before it was game over. Public safety had officially left the chat. Back at the organization, the big shots watched the news like helpless couch potatoes. South Korea's shiny capital had totally fallen, turning the city center into a literal wasteland. Meanwhile, back with our crazy protagonist, his luxury helicopter touched down. Looking down at the burning city, they soaked in the absolute chaos. He had claimed the Blue House as his own. A sweating soldier stared at our guy, wondering if this wasteland was his actual endgame. But to the main character, this country only gave him trauma, and nobody ever had his back. At the organization, a staffer dropped the bombshell that he literally cooked up this apocalypse yesterday. He strolled back home under fake emergency protocols, and now he was chilling in the president's chair. The suits started crying about Big Brother America, wondering why the United States was ghosting their favorite ally. Someone screamed to send an SOS to the Americans right now, but the guildmaster raised a hand to stop the whining. He said he would dial the big guns himself. He directly called the Pentagon. Over there, the American generals were binge-watching our protagonist's live-streamed rampage. They were totally sweating, guessing if this was some freakish psychokinesis, because what they saw completely broke their little scientific minds. Zero logic, zero explanation. The only thing these greedy generals knew was that they desperately wanted to weaponize him. But the million-dollar question was, could they even scratch this guy? They decided to run crying to DARPA for a magical solution. Yes, the ultra-secret Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. One suit mentioned they build sci-fi toys and then actually suggested kidnapping his family as a cheap hostage tactic. But another general instantly shot that down. Our guy just casually deleted his own president and stole his house for fun. He told the room to picture this apocalypse happening right here in the United States. How the heck would they survive? One arrogant fool boasted that Korea was weak compared to almighty America, but the smart general fired back. What if this monster actually landed on American soil? What if he brought his catastrophic playground rules over here? Would they have to nuke their own cities just to slow him down? Right on cue, a messenger barged in with breaking news, a desperate message from Korea's acting president. They realized the old man's frantic call finally went through. A general smirked, expecting this exact pathetic plea. The acting president was begging for backup, but instead of sending the cavalry, the American commander barked to pack their bags. The United States had secretly made a deal with our overpowered boss, securing their own safety. So he ordered every single American soldier hiding in Korea to run for the hills immediately. A blonde officer saluted but awkwardly asked if they were really just going to leave Korea on red. The top brass was ice cold. Ghost them. They will get the hint. The absolute best move for America is to mind our own business. Shortly after the cowards went live on international television, they blabbered about protecting freedom and democracy, putting on a fake show about how the United States and South Korea were besties forever. They promised to bravely defend against any foreign threats or provocations. But plot twist, this wasn't technically an alien invasion, nor did it legally count as a war on paper. So, in plain English, they called it a "you problem." America basically told Korea to fix their own mess, abandoning them completely. They brushed it off, hoping this choice would magically buff the military and spark a beautiful friendship between America and Korea. Besties forever. Meanwhile, the old geezer was practically foaming at the mouth. His fair-weather allies completely ghosted him. Now he had to solo this epic mess entirely alone.